Oh! Yo, yo, if you can hear me, people can't hear you.
All right, can you hear me now? I had my mic on mute by accident. Oopsies. So let's try this again
Let me see.
because the weather is not agreeing with me, and so it's screwing up with my tech. So I was saying this is the Operation Hangout. This is our new stream every Saturday at 9:30. Except when the weather wants to take a big dump on us and have me in traffic for an hour and a half to get home. Yeah, not fun. King, how's the weather down there, by the way, in Maryland?
Hey, it wasn't too bad here. I was out a little bit
Mm-hmm.
earlier today, but I'm gonna have to give you shit on your own channel because nobody heard your intro and all of that trash talking you was doing, and that's what you get.
Here's a reference to that. So I'm gonna repeat what I was saying. So King,
Nope.
no, what do you mean no? On my own channel, I can say whatever I want, whenever I want.
I hope your take issues happen again. You have the floor, sir.
Yeah, but as much as is kind of shit talking, but it's partially true if you really think about it, bro.
I mean, I know who I am. I will defend myself right or wrong.
Bro, if you got shot in the dick right now, you say nope, I never got shot, and keep walking it straight forward.
Yep, that's the type of person I am, my man.
That's why we
I will
love you, man.
admit I will admit defeat only at the last minute.
Not even fatality.
Hey, you know what? Even in death, like that'll probably be the only time that I'll ever admit defeat in
Mm-hmm.
death.
So we have two more guys supposed to join us. One is
Okay.
stuck in snow traffic, so I'm not sure if he's gonna make it. Paul, I'm not sure what time he's jumping on, but if not, right now it's just me and you. So let's kick it. So, are you up to date with stuff?
Yeah, man. I have been keeping up with stuff. Primarily, I get my news and stuff through social media,
Mm-hmm.
TikTok, Instagram. I have a news app, but I like to keep up with popular culture, aka pop culture, and things like
Okay,
that.
okay. I'm gonna test you because you're don't forget on Sundays you're sports bar, so you know your sports more than anybody, correct?
Not all sports, football, basketball, some things like that. There are things that I'm not I'm familiar with,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't follow it that often.
Okay, so as I said, oh, hang on 1 second. We got our new person in. Let me make sure he's cool. Let me copy his stuff and get him on board. Give me 1 second, guys, because I
All
gotta
right.
give him his intro too, because All right, so our next guest, he is the president of the Seven Bs, and not only that, he is the most knowledgeable, wisest, calmest person I know. So we're talking about Mr. B.
Hey, good evening, guys. Good to be on with you
Hey,
guys.
good evening, my man.
So
Hey, nice to meet you. Nice
yeah,
to meet you.
so we're about to talk about. So I'm getting from Terran F. Your both of you guys' volumes are low. So let me see if I is that actually on my side. Hang on, let me fix that.
Yep, that should be on your side, pimping.
Everything is maxed out. So let's continue with streaming and see what happens. So we're about to talk about if King, who does the sports bar show on Sunday, he thinks he knows everything sports. Now he's changing his sword. He's saying he knows somewhat, and I know for a fact you know pretty good about sports. So I'm gonna throw a loop on both of you guys. There, some people call this fake sport. Some people call this entertainment. Some people call it whatever they want to call it. I am talking about WWE. You guys know who came back on Monday?
Mm.
Nah, who's that?
Do you
That
smell
is
that? Do you smell that at all?
oh, The Rock.
Yeah,
The Rock.
there you go.
The Rock came back.
Yeah, so here's the rumor's been going on for a year. I don't know if you guys have been up to date with this at all. So the rumor is, obviously his cousin is Roman Reigns, and
Mhm.
he's the head of the table champion for like 3 goddamn fucking years. I don't think that's way too fucking long. Any champion. So now they're saying he is going to be the new. He's going to take over on. I don't think that's way too fucking long. He what was it? He's gonna go for the title and take over the title eventually. That's the key of that. So they're saying they're gonna amp this up to WrestleMania. And that's how big this is gonna be. This is gonna be one of the best matches, like Hogan versus Rock. You remember how big that was back then?
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that's what they're talking about. So, what's your guys' opinion so far?
Uh, the last time The Rock tried to come back on a semi basis when he fought John Cena, I think he had a stomach rupture or tear, something like that.
Yeah, I
Uh,
remember
so,
groin. I think. I
so
think he
yeah,
ripped
look,
his
when
groin.
you get something, yeah, but when you 50 plus, he looks terrific. He looks better than 98% of the men out there for sure. But trying to get into wrestling at his age, especially when you've been away from it for so long, anything could snap at any time. You know, as someone in their 50s, I can attest to the fact
Mhm.
that you feel like you could beat anybody about 70% of the time. And then sometimes you're just going to wake up and something hurts for no reason. And you're like, and then it just goes away after a while. So I don't know if that's a wise move for him to make. Him trying to come on as far as like an active roster. It made sense for John Cena to come back because they had the actors strike. So he basically needed a place to work and stay active until the strike was over. But I can't
Mhm.
see why The Rock, with all the things that he's got going on, why he wants to throw himself back in the ring at this point in his career. And the fact that if you think you still have to go back to the retreads to up the product or whatever, then that may tell me something about WWE in terms of how the business is going when you have to go back into the past to bring out these guys to keep them relevant. Not saying make special appearances and whatnot, but you're talking about active roster. I'm not feeling that per se, and I just don't think that at his age, he's like what 50. I think he's 51 now. I just don't see him trying to work a schedule up through and including the main event at WrestleMania. I just don't see how that's going to come off.
I have mixed feelings behind that because I think he could do good and at the same time and bad because The Rock always had great matches over the years. If you really think about it, his matches have been like awesome. But yeah, you're right. They have so many other wrestlers on the roster. Why are we bringing back the old school ones? And like we have better ones to work with. But here's the thing: everybody been asking for this match for over 3 years now. Like they want to see Roman versus Rock, Roman versus Rock. Everybody's been asking for it, and ever since Vince stepped down, that's just where they're at right now with it. King, what are your opinion? You're more about this stuff than anybody else I know.
I mean, look,
Listen, your
just
scratch is nothing up
like
there, bro. And we know that. You're scratching empty hair.
just like Mr. B said, man, this would have been a match that I would have liked to have seen 3 years ago, or even last year. I ain't gonna say last year, because being 51 years old, he made a fantastic point on that. Look, I'm not that old and out of shape, and it takes my blood and body about 30 to 40 minutes to just fully wake up. The Rock is in fantastic shape. Everything that he does is golden. I'm a huge fan of the man, huge fan of him,
Same here.
but I can't see a fully entertaining athletic bout between him and Roman Reigns without him rupturing something else. The last time that he was in the ring was September of last year, and prior to that, he hadn't stepped in the ring since prior to COVID, sometime around like 2019. I I'm for it. If he makes an appearance, it's going to make money. They're going to heavily publicize it. I'm just skeptical about what we're actually going to see, the product that's going to be on screen at his age. Even though he's in fantastic shape, man, I question it.
Yeah, and shape, comes at different levels. There's gym shape. I mean, one thing about being 50 plus, you can stay in gym shape probably the longest because strength is like, but elasticity, reflexes. Rock's known for doing them kip ups and into the people's
People's
elbow
elbows.
or
Yeah.
whatever. So it's that kind of stuff is the stuff that goes. I mean, like I can go out there, play basketball or whatnot, and I'll pull a hammy just running up and down the court now, but I can still squat. I mean, so it's a different type of shape, when you get into your 50s or whatnot. And just in general, I know wrestling has always been a place where you've had older guys that have been able to have some longevity in the sport, but it gets to a point like I'll watch some of the lesser promotions or whatever, like NWA, the retro, the new ones that's out, NWA Power.
Hmm.
Now I'll be seeing like the Rock and Roll Express on there. Those guys are like 70 years old, man. I mean, it gets to the point where it's like it defies credibility when you got guys in their 70s still trying to mix it up with guys in their 20s and whatnot. So it's I know with wrestling you have to kind of suspend reality a little bit to enjoy it, but some of these guys really push the bounds, especially on the indie circuits and whatnot. It's like nah, bro, you need to
You
it's
know who
time to
that's a
go.
good
You
example
really
of?
can't keep going.
Mick Foley. Mick Foley when getting thrown off those
Yeah.
goddamn stage, and I met Mick Foley personally. He's missing half his fucking teeth, and like
Oh yeah, then he lost an ear. All right, I think he had one of his ear pulled off
yeah,
or
I
something like that.
think his ear got turned up or ripped. I can't remember exactly, to be honest with you. But it was like he did some crazy shit. Like he had like stitches from the crown of his head all the way back, and like he split his skull right open, and he finished the match.
Mhm,
And there were a couple times like he
mhm.
shouldn't finish the match. There was that's it, done. He's done. Like he got off the stretcher, he went back in there. So with The Rock, and like I know this is a story, but the moves, some of the moves are actually real. But one thing about The Rock, he never did high flying moves, so he could stretch his career a lot longer. Like Rey Mysterio, he's all over in the air and doing some crazy stuff. Like Ricochet, that guy is insane. Some of his stuff,
Right.
I'm like, I thought Rey Mysterio was like the to me was the most hair flyer that I saw. But no,
Yeah.
the Ricochet is like I got a little cannonball. Like it's like boing, boing, boing,
Yeah.
boing. I'm like nothing stops him. Like when he
Right.
fought
But there
Paul.
is something to say. Now
Go
he's
ahead.
an example. There is something to say for staying in it. I'm saying like everyone's gonna get old at some point,
Hmm.
but he never left the game. You know what I'm saying? And there's something to be said for that. Like you get in shape and you stay in
That's
shape.
true.
For a guy in their 50s to say, okay, now I just want to get in the gym and whatnot, it's hard. That's why when I
Mhm.
really took working out seriously, I never got out of shape. I was like as you saw like my videos, like I train like we went on vacation last week. I trained at the hotel. You know what I mean? Like I look when I book uh, hotels, I look for ones that have gyms in them because I know I got to get that workout in, in some form of fashion, or whatever. So Ray never got out of the ring, and but The Rock or like some of these guys, you just want to bring them out of retirement. It's still not the same to me.
See, I think they're with most of the new wrestler ones. They don't have the it factor like the old school ones did. Like the ones we grew up, the Hogan, the Rocks, the McFoley, Stone Cold. Stone Cold is a great example. How many of you remember saying you used to give the finger like, okay, cool. Now with the PG thing, like that killed it off. Now with Triple H come, taking it back and kind of turning the rotation back, how wrestling should be with a little edge, with a little attitude. They were saying that actually wrestling right now is the highest it's been in a very long time.
It's a good
Well, it's definitely
product,
sold out.
man. Yeah. I mean, it's a good product. I didn't grow up watching, but I was familiar with wrestling. I played the video games as well because I'm a gamer. But the first match that I went to was a WWE match here in the DC area. I want to say it was last year. It was last year or the year prior. And man, like the energy at the
Oh,
event and everything. Oh, like
Oh, it's
that's what
night
made
and
me
day.
go,
That's night and
oh,
day.
I get it now. I'm like, I
yeah.
get it. Like in person, you're like, yeah, and everybody's and the crowd's getting into it. If it's on TV and nothing else is on, I might catch it, but
No.
I'm not running to it unless a certain name I know is going to be on, and then I'll tune in.
See, the reason
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
still follow it mostly because my mom is such a hardcore fan. Like, I'm not even kidding you, dude.
Is that
Like,
right?
my mom is like,
Is that right?
dude, like I'm telling you, she's getting like, fuck it, go, and she's like screaming at TV. I'm like, whoa, I'm like, you're
That's
72,
That's
awesome.
right?
awesome.
She's screaming. I'm
Big
like,
shout out to Bob.
yeah, and I try to sit down and have a conversation with her, like, yo, that's fake, right? I'm like, bullshit, that's fucking real, and like,
Oh,
she's
you're gonna
really,
be you the Scrooge at Christmas, man. You were right.
yeah. I'm like, I'm trying to explain to her, like,
You're the Grinch, man.
oh man, I'm gonna get shit from this one now. Damn.
You're,
But
you're the one I'm sure you would telling the kids back in the day that Santa Claus wasn't real either.
no, I was
You were
not. I'm
six,
not that
7 years
cruel.
old
I'm not
saying
that
Santa
cruel.
wasn't real.
I'm not that
Okay.
cruel. I'm
All
like,
right.
but I was blessed with something else, so I can't talk too much right now. But anyway, but I was saying to her, like, explain that all that stuff, like, she thinks the storylines are real, the fights are real, like, of the blood, it's real, but she doesn't understand like the outcome is already, determined. She goes, nope, this is a real thing. Like, you cannot tell me the chariot shot is fake. Like, there's a technique behind that, obviously.
Mhm.
So she's trying to, tell me like this and this. And I'm like, all right. But speaking about the 80s, what you guys do you even remember what I meant? What is the best thing about the 80s?
The best. Wow. We could go.
Oh, I got a good one for you
You wanna-
guys.
But just before you begin, just to compare, like, so for example, the first time, and this, I went to a WWE match with my daughter in August for her, it was like a late birthday present.
Okay.
So we went to the Guard, Madison Square Garden.
Nice.
And like my man was saying, it was unbelievable.
Is
Now,
it?
the last time I went to a wrestling match was also at the Garden. Now, this is going back to 1986.
Wow.
This is where Hulk Hogan actually tag teams with Rowdy Roddy Piper against Paul Orndorff and I forget who his tag team partner was, but that's what he's with Bobby Heenan. And it was exciting when it was there, but it's like night and day. You know what I mean?
It
The
is, it is.
electricity, the energy that was in there. I've been to professional basketball games, professional
Mhm.
football games. I've been to, live entertainment concerts and whatnot. In fact, my wife and I went back to the Garden like a couple months later for a concert for Lionel Richie about the 80s. So it was Lionel Richie and it was Earth, Wind, and Fire. And that was sold out too. Nothing compares to a WWE live event and a packed out arena. So for the money, I've never seen anything like that. The diversity of the crowd, the families, old people, young people, black, white. It was everything you could think of. Like there is no, you can't go into that. You can't categorize a wrestling fan because of the diversity that's there. So for the money, like there is, it was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. But as far as the 80s, for me, since I grew up essentially an 80s kid, the best, it was just the changes. I mean, I think the 80s is where a lot of stuff just sort of took off. The 80s, you had video games took off. You had MTV took off. Music videos took off. Just the technology and just the and just the coming of age, in that time. It's like every year some new innovation or something like that was coming out around that time. So it was just, it was just a cool period with all the new things that you had access to.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the music, I mean, I think that really you could say the 90s might have been the last music era. Like, think about it. You got
Hmm.
the 50s had a sound. You know what I mean? 1950s. The 1960s had a sound. The 70s with funk and R&B had a sound. The 80s with the synthesizer and all this, and rap came out, and it was a sound. And then the 90s had a sound, and now since the 21st century, everything is sampled from those eras. You know what I'm saying? It's like there is. I don't know what a 2000s sound is, a 21st century sound is, because they're just
That is a
sampling
good
everything
point
that came
there.
out of the 80s. So
I was
the
never.
80s and yeah.
No, no, go finish. We're going to finish your
No,
thought.
so the 80s, that was such a distinction in the variety of music and the beatboxes and the digital and all of that. It just, the break dancing, and I did a little of that. Not, I wasn't super good at it, but I could pop and take a little bit. But
Oh,
you know it was just the culture, man. It was a great time. It was a very good time.
King, what do you think? What do you think I was going with this? Did you forgot how to talk again?
No, I didn't
No,
hear you. I actually thought that you were about to say something,
no,
so
no. I want to
I
see
stopped.
where you think I'm going with this. I want to see. I got Paul's opinion. I want your opinion now.
Oh, so I was born in 1984, so to say good things about the 80s, I just have to kind of go back to what I recall.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the TV shows I watched in the late 90s came from the 80s, Married with Children, Family Matters, things like that. And what he said about music was spot on in my opinion. But I can't really add too much to this conversation, being that I was born in 1984. So I grew up as a kid in it.
All
There's
right.
really not much that I could add to it.
So close. You got both are close. So what I was going with it was something else. Before I go into that, I will say one thing that both of you guys agree I on is the music. The music back then, we had a sound, like you said. It was a specific, like you heard being like RV, whatever, Metallica, for example, back then it was really big.
Mhm,
Or this, you heard that song, yeah, that's from the '80s. But what I was going
mhm,
with it actually is movies.
Okay.
The reason I'm picking movies because when I was driving in this goddamn snowstorm, Ghostbusters came out. And, those songs like
mhm.
who we gonna
Yeah,
call. So I was
yeah.
thinking about like wow, like the '80s had a good movie. I'm not saying '85 was the best year or '84 or '86. I think '80s in general, like we had Top Gun. That, to me, was one of the best movies. For air fire movies ever made. Personally, that's my personal opinion.
Mhm,
It's still in my
mhm.
top 10 movies. Then you have Ghostbusters. And I know this person's probably listening, and he's have a grin on his face, and you know who I'm talking about, King already. Our buddy CQ, Back to the Future. He if he was on right now, he's gonna argue with us. That's the best movie ever made, and that's an argument debate we can have. That it's a very very good movie, and it's not a bad movie. People are saying they're gonna be part four. I don't know if that thing is ever gonna happen at part four, to be honest.
Mhm.
But we have like the remakes from the now they're making remakes from the '80s. That tells
Yeah.
you something right now. Think about
Oh
it.
yeah, everything's yeah,
Yeah.
everything's doing good. Yeah,
Like good example.
like I
I
said,
Go ahead.
in this era, everyone's sampling, everyone's just recycling everything. Right?
Exactly. Like I know you're a big Godzilla fan, correct?
Yeah,
Yeah.
huge.
So think about it. Where was the '80s? '80s even further back. There were all Godzilla movies. So they're recycling that content in a different twist now. So
Mhm,
and I think they're still good movies. Don't get me wrong. But
mhm.
if you think about it, if you could pick some movies back from the '80s and have to use today's technology, do you think they'll be that good?
Um,
Ooh, I'd
Uh,
like
you
to
go
see
ahead.
it. Now, I like to see it. For example, the Terminator series. I,
mm-hmm.
I think that they put too much into it, but the original Terminator came out in the 80s. And I would like to see if they were to go back and do kind of like a reboot of
Okay.
the original Terminator, what that would look like in today's technology. I think it'd be dope.
Mm.
Okay.
I'm sort of mixed on this one, because I think we've certainly seen, again, in this era, there's been so much emphasis on, like CGI and whatnot to tell the story. And I think what sometimes happens is the storytelling, I think, suffers a little bit. The writing, I think, suffers a little bit because of that. So, I mean, yeah, you can look at some of those movies from the 80s and you say, yeah, like the graphics and the animation CGI looks a little bit dated. But I think the storytelling was was really was really key to why they were successful. So again, you just can't throw in the example. I said I just saw recently Godzilla -1, which I'm really on the fence saying that that might be the best Godzilla movie ever made, and that's saying a lot. It's on the Mount Rushmore. Now, I love the MonsterVerse, you know what I mean? But
Mm-hmm.
even with the last movie, Godzilla versus Kong, man, I loved it. But again, if you rely too much on the technology and not on the characters, not on the stories, then I think it suffers a little
Mm-hmm.
bit. So the movies you talk about, like one of my favorite movies from the 80s was War Games. That was, I mean, it was so tense, and especially
Okay.
one thing about the 80s, we lived through that, like the whole, Cold War era and whatnot, and US and Russia, and then we talk about nuclear catastrophes back then and everything. And I was like, it was so real to us because we used to have to do like drills in schools, like something happens, go onto your desk and all that kind of stuff. We had to do that sort of thing. So the writing of it was so good that you could get away with like simple graphics at the time, and it was fine. Now, the other thing about it is, again, the fact that we were growing up in it, we thought it was the coolest thing ever at the time. You know what I'm saying? Like, I go back to the days, just to show my age. You guys didn't grow up with those Mattel digital pocket games, right? Like they had Mattel football, Mattel basketball with the little red dot, and you're like,
I did
using
not
arrows to
grow
go.
up with it, but I did play
You've,
with
I'm
no, but
it.
aware of it, but
you've
yeah,
seen it, right?
Yeah, I
yeah.
actually
That was
hold and played it. To be honest with
that was,
people, stuff
but
like
for
that.
us, we
Best
didn't
thing in the
have
world.
Game Boy. We didn't have Game Boy. We didn't have, NES. I mean, we had 8-bit graphic games. But at the time, again, because it was new, you thought it was the coolest thing ever. And every year it was like the coolest thing ever. So you get to a point where the graphics and everything, yeah, it looks better, it brings a sense of realism to it. But that can't still replace a good story. And it can't replace building strong characters that that sell the story. The technology should help the story, but it shouldn't tell it. So that'd be my only reservation about taking a lot of these movies and try to retrofit them, because especially from a from a producer point of view, they're like, oh yeah, we get all these cool graphics and yeah, it'll make a lot of money, but you got to have good actors, you got to have a good story, you got to have it should be a support, but it can't take over for a good plot line.
And that's where I'm going. Like, okay, I'm gonna give it one movie for a great example that had no graphics, no nothing like that. Last Samurai, for a good example. Last Samurai, that barely had
Mm-hmm.
anything, and they're all about acting. All right, the argument debate is Tom Cruise that a good actor? That's a debate. Whatever. Okay, you could put
Mm-hmm.
anybody else. You
Right.
could put in The Rock, for example. That's like another good example. He actually did. What movie was that? Shit, I'm trying to remember the Greek guy. Hercules. Like so the graphics were toned down so much. Like you didn't have
Mm-hmm.
any CGI stuff like that. Like definitely
Mm-hmm.
with the Last Samurai, it was nothing. They were like
Mm-hmm.
swords and going at it. And I was a huge fan
Yeah.
of the movie because I'm a big lover of the martial arts. And
Yeah.
both of you guys know this. Anybody in the air knows that who follows me for a while. I'm a big fan of martial artists. And I think they did justice to the series actually for a samurai. Now, like for another example, the Last Roman, who Keanu Reed played. I don't think the last Roman was as good. To be honest with you guys, I think it
Mhm,
was okay
mhm, mhm.
because it was like way too graphically, in my opinion,
Mm,
if that makes
yeah,
sense.
yeah.
So it depends on which way you want to go with this. It can go either way with it. So you can argue the fact both of them were good movies. Yeah, they are. But which one is the better movie now?
I'm always gonna go back to the classic. I'm that guy. The original. Some movies, it's like it's
Mm-hmm.
so good, like it doesn't need to be rated. Like if they ever redo The Godfather, I'm not watching.
How about Scarface?
Same thing. If they redo Scarface, I'm not watching it. You can't do like it's interesting now now I might be sounding hypocritical there because I'm not talking about obviously the 1932 version of Scarface, right? But then you got 1980, 81, 82 with Al Pacino. That Tony Montana, you can't. I mean, that's on the shelf. That's like if you go there, that's like blasphemy. If you touch that film, if you touch that performance, you can't mess with that. So again, I will not watch it just out of protest. In fact, there was some talk about a few years ago. There was some talk about doing like a Scarface remake, and it didn't go anywhere. But I think they were wise enough to say, yeah, I mean, you don't touch a masterpiece, and it's very hard. The only speaking of age, the only thing that now I would say this one movie that may have gotten this right um, in recent years may have been Dune. You talk about 80s movies, Dune. Um,
Yeah.
now I saw it over
Yes.
COVID when they had the on HBO and they're coming out with the sequel. Now I thought that was very good, nicely done as far as blending the technology in, but again, not letting the technology dominate the story. You saw the technology there, but it wasn't so overpowering that it lost you. So again, there are exceptions to it. But the Dune series, grooming, if you haven't seen it
Mm-hmm.
yet, definitely get caught up.
I'm
And
gonna
again,
definitely
Dune
go
is
look
heady
into it.
anyway.
But that you just gave me a good other example that there was an overpowered graphic, and they did a great job of wiring. Is
Mhm.
Summon Tiger? No, it wasn't Tiger. Hidden Dragons, something like that. It,
Crouching Tiger, Hidden
thank
Dragon.
you. Yes, that
Yeah.
was. It was very balanced with like cables, a good kung fu movie, but they didn't use
Mhm.
no graphics almost. It was barely anything, and I kind of
Right. They
miss those
they
old
use
movies.
old school. They
Yes,
use old school tactics. And again, the technology was used to like remove the wires,
that's fine.
but the wires are still there. They didn't have to like totally digitize the character
Mm-hmm.
and make a 3D image of the person. Again, the CG the digital was to make it look cleaner. But again, it wasn't there to kind of tell the story. They still use old school tactics that again we grew up on. I used to I don't know if you guys remember the Saturday afternoons, Saturday 3 a.m. Kung Fu Theater used to come on in my area.
No,
Used to
I
come
don't
on
remember that
Channel
actually.
5. Oh man, that was for guys, for Gen Xers, for guys. I know Trey was in the chat earlier. I mean, that was golden for us. That was Saturday afternoon after you did all your stuff or whatever. You tuned in for Kung Fu Theater, and that's where you got all the Shaw Brothers movies and all that. And so that's what we grew up on. And so
Mm-hmm.
when I saw like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, to your point, it reminded you of that. But again, they made it cleaner in that you didn't see a lot of the wire work or whatever, and they kind of it gave it polish, but it didn't overpower you with things that said, "Oh, that doesn't look believable anymore."
And that's where I'm going with this. Like even I use Star Wars was one of my favorite movies, hands down, from the
Mhm.
'80s. Not hands
Same.
down, like one of the top ones I would say. They used graphics, but it was barely any graphics. Now versus let's say the last Skywalker, that was
Hmm.
100% GTI graphics, this and that. I'm like,
Hmm.
it got to the point like I think it was way too much in some scenes. And the
Yeah.
storyline sucked. Let's be honest here. The storyline wasn't like up to
One
par.
hundred percent.
Let's
One
be honest.
hundred percent.
It's fun. Fun fact actually. George Lucas' original mindset was after the after Vader dies, he wanted them to rebuild the Jedi Order and show that through
That's
the
right.
movies. And
That's right.
obviously they couldn't do that. They were way too old, and that was the problem.
Yeah.
It's kind of sad because what if it was like they could have done that? Because all of them are great actors. I think every single one of them. I know Ford didn't want to do it. He was like if you could do it, you got to kill my character off. He was like done with that series a long time ago. And it
Right.
makes it kind of like, and that what upsets me with actors because this is what made you money, made you famous. Without Star Wars, he would not get Indiana Jones in the other movies. Think about it.
Yeah, I no, and it's a common story.
Mhm.
I've met actors and just people in general. I've heard interviews of people, and like the things that made them famous, they all hate. I don't know why. It's I want to be taken serious as an actor. Like they feel like whatever that role was, like it typecast them, and they want to do other things. But my thing is, look, as long as you keep those checks coming in, that's paying for my house, that's paying for my kids to go to college, that's paying for whatever. But I've seen a lot of people, they do that. What they're most known for is often the piece when you ask them, well, what is your favorite thing? And it's seldom mention the most popular thing. So that's an actor's thing. Since I'm not in that space, so I can't relate to that. But I will easily take like the greatest thing that puts me on the map, and I'll always hold that in high regard. But somebody's got some off Broadway play that they did was like, oh, that was like my finest acting gig, or whatever.
You know what? Because we are up to
I never
seven.
heard of it, but okay, but whatever suits you.
Yeah, we are up to 7 views right now. People watching in the chat, guys. Let us know what was your favorite movies from the 80s. I am very curious. So where this conversation will go because this is getting interesting, in my opinion. What are you thinking?
So my favorite movie of the 80s?
Yeah. Before you say that, me and King actually have a friend, that we all call him CQ. He has met a bunch of actors and he became friends with him. And some of the guys, he meets and like they're great, great people. And some other people are like, oh, I don't know about that guy. I have met some famous people too myself for going to Comic-Con, and I shook their hands and everything. Great example was the guy who played in Next Generation Star Trek, the number one. I keep forgetting his real name. You know what I'm talking about, right, guys?
Mm-hmm.
So
he. Oh, you talking about from TNG?
Yes.
Yeah, Riker, right?
Yes.
William Riker.
Yes.
Yeah.
So when I met him, he was such a goddamn scumbag, bro. He didn't want anything to do with you. He literally threw his autograph like, man, like, the fuck, I'm paying good money for this shit. And that's a chance you take when you go to Comic-Cons and everything. Someone can be a great guy, some of them. The wrestlers are their best ones, for example. Like $1 Million Man was such a sweet guy. Lex Luthor this year I met, it was like, when they're walking away, literally, he was holding his bag so tight. Like, he fell from grace. You can tell he's not like the same person he was. And it broke my heart. Like, he used to be like one of the icons. I understand eventually everybody's gonna fall from grace, all those wrestlers. I get that. And it's just one of those things, you know what I'm saying? It is. Yeah, so it's a good time, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
All right,
Sure.
you guys hang on one second because in the covers I gotta get another guest coming in. I want to get him on board and ready. All right.
Okay.
Oh man, Stacy mentioned Fast Times at Ridgemont.
I've got mine ready,
man.
but I like to give a quote from the movie and see if what it is.
Oh, here we go.
Yo.
Yep. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna get you on, Trey. Your camera's not on, bud. People in technology. All right, guys, he's coming on in literally right about now. Where is it? All right, he's on with us, but his camera is not working because he's
All right.
All right, so we got Trey. He's one of our fellow guys we usually hang out with another show on a BMU. So he's a wise man. He's a good man, and he's a bolder brother too. So we have one more person coming in. Give me 1 second, get him rock and rolling, and I'll get him in next too. So, you guys are jumping on ones. Man, I got to get a
Oh,
little better at this OBS shit. All right, guys. I have the wise. The only one mustache, guys. I'm getting outnumbered here. 4-1. This is not fair. We have Hashim.
What up? What up?
What's up, fellas? How y'all doing?
All right.
Uh,
what's
All
good?
right. All right.
Nice to meet you.
Likewise.
All right. So
okay, hang on,
I'm gonna give you
hang
my.
on, hang on. We gotta talk about this. I am the only guy have hair here. 4-1 is not goddamn fair.
First of all, again, shout out to King.
Salute.
And I'm sorry, brother. Yeah, at the bottom, what's your name?
Hashim.
Hashim?
I'm sorry, what's your name, brother? Hashim.
Yes.
First of all, again, my name is Paul, and
Nice to meet you, Paul.
I am nice to meet you also, Hashim. So I am the president of the 7 Bs. So the 7 Bs are the bold, the beautiful, the beneficent, the benevolent, ball brothers of the Black Man Unfiltered Network.
Okay.
So we've come into existence in this past year. And what we've been doing is we've been spreading the message of the follically free, that the bald headness is just taking over these spaces. So we're talking about wrestling earlier. We're like the NWO.
Okay.
So we're taking over the YouTube streets. So you see this panoply, this tapestry of beautiful bald heads, these brothers coming in, shining light literally in these spaces, dominating panels, taking over conversations, raising the level of dialogue in these spaces. And we have every reason to believe it's because of the loss of hair. It's just freeing our minds in order to bring again to up the game in these levels here. So I'm the president currently, in this network, and so I'm always recruiting. I'm asking brothers to join our ranks. So I know brother Trey Ferg, who's in the back. I know he's a member of our club. I cordially invite you guys to join our cause, to join our movement.
Okay.
Let's get rid of the Sherman. Let's encourage brothers to drop the Sherman Hemsley look and the crown around the back of the head. Just shave it all off. You've lost the battle. Free
I'm
yourself
telling you.
of the hair and whatnot, so that you can and shine up that head. So we can this is the new wave. This is the new look that we're promoting. The locks and the dreads, that thing is over. And so this is what we're promoting. So I cordially invite you brothers to join our movement and to join our cause, and to show once again, as you see here, grooming is surrounded by this brilliance, by this tapestry here. So we're encouraging here. He took a positive step a couple of weeks ago in shaving his head, but he doesn't want to stay yet. So he's kind of tipped his toe into it, but we're trying to convince him that this is the way to stay. So we're trying to encourage him to remain in his baldness and embrace
good luck
it
with him.
as a lifestyle. So
All right.
that's where I'm at. So I just want to give that shout out and intro for you guys who don't know who we are, but we're here. We're go to all these channels, go to the BMU network, you'll see it. We're just spreading bald beauty all over these streets, and we just want this to continue as a movement. So,
Paul.
Okay.
Mr. President, do you want a slot promoting the 7Bs as the president on the Grooming and Review channel?
I can do that. It would be a pleasure. I'll always look forward to platforms to spread the message for guys to embrace again the follically free lifestyle.
Here's a question I do have.
This is liberation.
As part of the club, this 7Bs, is it shiny head or non-shiny? That's what I need to figure out.
Well, again, it can be either, because again, depending on where you're at, you don't want to shine a light so blindly that it just blinds people. So again, it depends on the platform and the stage. Sometimes a little matte finish on the head is appropriate in some spaces, but other times, if you want to shine your baldness and just let it just glitter and lighten up the room, we encourage all of it. But the important thing is, we want guys to embrace and see what the inner beauty is. I mean, you talk about the 80s. Look at what we came through the 80s, right? The Jerry curl. How many couches were ruined by the Jerry curl in the background? Just that stain that was left on the back of the sofa. Look at what brothers were doing. How many brush strokes did men go through? The millions of brush strokes to get that nice groove waves and the do-rags that we used to wear back in the day. And all for what? We lost our hair eventually. We lost it.
Hang
So,
on one
it
second,
was
Paul.
awkward.
Trey, hit your camera button. That should turn on your camera.
All right, I'm gonna try it. Okay, here we
Okay.
go. Let's see. Hold up. I'm gonna stand up. Hold up. I'm gonna get. I gotta stand up. Give me 10 seconds. Go ahead, fellas. I'm
All right.
just.
All right, hey.
Go ahead, King. Go ahead.
Now, I have to bounce, but you had asked me a question, man, and I was ready with
Yeah,
the
go
answer.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yes,
All right,
the 80s,
so
the 80s movies. Go ahead.
my favorite movie from the 80s. If I say this line and y'all rock with this line, then I know we all cool here. So when I first started my business, people said I was weird. A black man with a pizza shop. Now, there isn't a hungry soul in this town that doesn't know my slogan. Just directing your pizza to Daddy Green's Pizza.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, 80s.
Oh, Ashim, I know your memory is shit as hell.
I'm
Hey,
trying
At your age.
80s movie. Just directing your pizza to Daddy Green's Pizza.
Who is that?
What movie in the 80s had a brother had a pizza shop?
Only one.
I can give a more popular line, but the moment I say it, you gonna know it.
The only one was with that. What was that with
Don't
pizza.
say nothing.
Oh man.
Okay, so what side of the 80s was it? Early 80s or 85 after?
Middle 80s.
It's not nothing with Spike Lee.
85 high school.
No.
Hey,
Man.
my man, what it look like? Hey,
What was that? I'm gonna get you,
man.
sucker. Nah.
What it look like?
Nah, that was not.
No.
Yeah.
No.
No, I have no idea.
Okay,
I couldn't even say.
here's the more popular line. When I say, who is the master?
Yes.
You
Oh,
say,
God.
Show enough.
enough.
Show enough.
Don't know. Oh,
The
okay.
Last Dragon.
Last Dragon.
Barry Gordon's The Last Dragon
I am
is
master.
my most watched movie of
Okay.
all time. No kidding, if I were to give you a metric, I might have watched it no less than 300 times. And I can probably say with money on the line that if you play it, I can quote the movie script line by line with maybe a 10% margin of error. I can say 90%. I can go line by line on that movie because I've watched it so much. It's one of my favorite movies, not just of the
That's a good
80s,
one,
but
though.
of all time. Of all time.
That's a good one, though.
That's a
Wow,
good one.
that's a good one.
I like that.
It's King. Like King is my actual government name. I pay taxes with it. King. K-I-N-G. Yes,
I
sir.
love it.
All right.
Love it.
I'm gonna name you an official member of the beautiful, bold, and bald man hands club right now in 2024. As a young man, you're a member.
See,
All right.
Look at this.
And when you look at
Hey,
the
this
definition,
sounded-
hold up. When you look, I'm gonna answer your question.
Look at this. Look at the symmetry here.
I am
Yeah,
outnumbered
yes,
on
sir.
my own show and on my
No,
own channel.
but-
This is not fair. Where
But
is
brother,
I'm just
BMU
saying,
when I
just
need
look-
him?
I mean,
When
just
you
look
look
at
up
this
the
beauty that we're
definition-
surrounded with. Look at this.
and also look up the definition of what bald means. You'll be surprised if you ever looked it up. Just look up the definition
All
and
right.
see what it means. You're gonna be like, oh yeah, that's me. And I'll tell you, most bald guys, most of us are good looking. So we're gonna always be on the look. And most of us are pretty attentive and smart and want to be successful. So, but look at the definition. You'll be like, yeah, how old are you, man?
I'll be 40 this year.
Yeah, you first
Boy, my
generation, man.
ass.
You first generation. We'll talk about that. Brother, how old are you, man, at the bottom? What's your name again?
Hashim?
Hashim. I said it right?
Yes, that's right. I'm 52.
Yeah, you're a brother Benny. Your thing.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
With the
Yeah.
78,
I'm
you mean?
55.
for life, baby.
I'm 55, man.
All right.
I had to show y'all how to get down a little bit. But I'm telling you, man, this is just a beautiful space, man. Grooming, man, he's a good guy, man. I'm just now meeting him a few months ago.
Yes.
But I'm telling you, the 80s was the best year. It was so many good avenues to go to, whatever. The music was hitting on all spectrums, the clubs, the socialization, man. People was getting that little money. We was living good off of $30,000. Matter of fact, 80 something, man. We was in high school, man. Our parents was living good, brother. Our parents was living good off of $40,000 a year, raising 5 and 6 health. Look, you see, brother Ben is big. Brother Hassan, he looked like he about 6 foot. I've been 5'9" since the 7th grade. You see what I'm saying?
See,
You
now
in the
you bring a
prime of
good
your
point
life,
up.
man. You in the
Back
prime of
then,
your life, man. Stop worrying about people and go live life, man. You got children?
For me, yes.
No,
Same.
my brother at the top. You got
Oh.
children?
can't
Yeah,
guess you,
yeah, I do. Yep. So, my name's King. I have a daughter named Castle. King and Castle, man. We rock.
Well, look,
We
take
rock.
She
your
is
kid,
a very,
take your
very
kid and
smart
your
kid.
castle, and y'all gonna see the world right now. Go see the world in the next 5 years.
Oh,
right
he's
now.
doing that. He's doing that. Trust me. And he never visited his friends in PA either.
Oh yeah.
Go see,
Hey,
go see the world. PA,
Hey.
go see PA.
I
Take
got.
it, baby. You'll be
I
by the time you 50. By the time you 50, you'll be a $500,000 man. That's all I can say, brother.
Hey man, I got my passport. She's got hers. We actually just came back, man, off of a trip. I've been to 20-something different countries,
Nice.
living on this earth already. So it
Nice.
is
Beautiful.
it has opened up my mind. I tell everybody, hey, first chance you get, grab your passport, man, and go see the world. Oh, King, I ain't got the money for it, yada yada. But I'll go into your closet and I see you got 15 pairs of $180 shoes. And I'm like, oh, but you can't spend $120 and get a passport, $400 to take a flight out the country and maybe, a $1,500 trip total to go and see a new place, gain some experience with culture. Okay, I get it. I see what your priorities are.
See,
Mm-hmm.
that's one thing I don't ever understand. You're spending like $300, $400, $500 on sneakers, but you don't save your money for something more important. Let's say you want to go visit Japan, Greece, or whatever, or you want to buy a new car. Whatever. I can see me saving money investing into a newer car, like I did, like $40K out on my side. But why am I spending $300 on shoes that are they're rubber? I call them bananas on my feet. That's what I call them. Like I don't understand the point of spending on Jordan so much money. There's some like people sitting in line for hours. I never understood that. Maybe you guys understand that a little better than I can. I never understood that.
No,
Oh.
I spoke to a kid 2 weeks ago. He probably had in his closet, depending on how you value shoes, maybe about $4,000 of shoes
Jesus.
in his closet. I asked him, I said, hey, I ain't trying to count your pockets. How much you have in a savings account? Oh man, I got about $500 in my savings account.
Yeah.
I scratched my head on that one.
My brother,
Yeah.
my brother.
That big
when you
head,
talk
it's
about
hard not to
shoes,
scratch it.
here's how you know you deal with grown men. When you talk about shoes, and I'm sure Mr. Brother Ben and Brother Hassan, in our generation, you got to talk about from the regular tennis shoe, the jogging shoe, the dress shoe. You got the see if he got a whole bunch of tennis shoes, then if he's 40, then you got to look at his mindset. You got to that's still a child mindset. Y'all the generation. I'm telling you, y'all the generation that can change the game out here.
See, here's my rule about shoes. You have a one dress shoe, like whatever. I have a pair of Gucci's, and I pay like I think it was
No.
200.
Gucci.
Hang on. A Tim's, one nice Tim's to wear. A second, a beat up one that I don't give a shit what happened. A gym for the sneaker gym, a nice gym. Nice, nice sneaker to go out, whatever, like dinner or whatever, and another beat up pair. So I only have maybe tops in my closet account, maybe 10 pairs. That's it, and most of them I
That's
don't even
more
wear.
than me.
What's that, man?
I said that's more than me.
That's more than me.
I am also counting my work shoes too. Don't forget that my work shoes are a whole different thing because I have to work solicitations and all that stuff. But my point in trying to get there is, I know people who have over 200 to 300 pairs of shoes. Think of that.
I know a cat that have him on display in his house, in his room.
Seriously?
It's like a display case, like if you're in the store.
Yeah, hey, and where you can display it, yet your lifestyle and your assets also match too.
No,
That's great.
but see that's the problem.
This kid who I was talking to was 20, I think it was 28, 29. We were just talking about life and things. And the fact that he didn't even have $500 in a savings account, but yet he has a walk-in size closet with about, I'm just spitballing, about $4,000 worth of shoes. And to me, I don't understand that.
I
That's
think that's
crazy.
overpriced. Personally, I think that's way
No,
overpriced.
I understand. I understand. That's easy to understand. Somebody like that, you gotta look at. You gotta look first. Go to their upbringing. They finding validity about themselves in products and material stuff, and it shows. He's a young man, right?
Mhm.
Well,
He's
yeah,
28, 29.
yeah, but still, he's a man. He's a black man. You can just probably look at his whole little teenage years, and he wasn't looking at wrestling. 23 hours. He wasn't, he ain't have a stable lifestyle. You can tell, man. You the generation that can change it. You the first generation. You the first generation crack baby. Go back. No, really. When New Jack City came out, it told the world, here it come across the country, right? So you was a baby. You was 10. You was 10. You was 8, 9, 10 when it started hitting the street. You started seeing a lot of more murder race, people getting taken out, young brothers, uncles, cousins, people 18, 17, 16. When we were teenagers, we was roaming the streets, man. We wasn't fighting and killing each other. We might have a fight or two, but man, we was playing sports, man. We was getting the girls. We all had jobs at 16, 17. We all was lifting weights, man. A lot of brothers lifting weights, getting straight buff, man. And look, almost 67% of brothers even back then had single mamas, but they mama was in shape. She could cook. She raised 5, 6'6" boys with size 12 shoe. Could you imagine your mama raising 5, 6'6" boys and she 5'6"? Mamas cared about them. They cared about children first. Even if the daddy wasn't there, the mama would be like,
facts.
she gonna find a good bald head dude to be like, hey, get his ass together. And see, it wasn't a whole lot of conversation about what people doing. People were just doing it. And the teenagers, like Brother Ben and my brother Hassan, they was like, I was clean growing up. Y'all talk about shoes, man. I probably got about 120, but I got a mixture of dress shoes, casual. I wear Adidas. I ain't never bought a pair of Jordans in my life. I've been going shopping by myself.
I only had one.
Trey, to be honest with you, I am 38. The first time I bought a pair of Jordans was past November, right after my birthday. My birthday is November 29th. It was like November 28th. No, I'm sorry, November 30th. I got them, I think, and I bought the most cheapest price I can find. It was like $80. That's how cheap I am. And they're nice shoes. I like wearing them. They're very comfortable. I do understand why people like Jordans, but I don't see the price tag going with it. Why are we paying like Back to the Future shoes? Very good example. We're going over $1,500 for one pair of shoes.
Yeah,
and it's more than that. It's ridiculous with the shoes. They're all way overpriced for a pair of bananas.
Unless it's like any other collectible. Now, if you in the trading business, then it's like buying stamps or buying comic books. I don't know if you guys are like in the comic collectibles and stuff like that. I was never hardcore into it, but I have friends who are. So again, if you trade, you making sure they in the plastic, containers and you keep them pristine.
That's different.
That I get, but if you just talk about just kicks just to be rocking with, that's a lot. And then once I saw that, I think they had a 60 Minutes or whatever. And they said, well, $150 pair of Jordans, they're making them for $15 or whatever.
Yeah.
Then I was like, I almost set a limit to myself. I will never pay more than, like $70, $80. Like a lot of the shoes I get off of eBay. I get off of, but I can't. I don't think I've ever spent $100. I think my daughters got me a pair of the Rocks PR4 training shoes a couple Christmases ago. But as far as and I said, look, you want to go there, that's fine. But I just never was one to spend a ton of money on sneakers. I mean, I'm a Puma man actually. So again, the Puma Street, the motorsports from back in the day. So I usually rock those, a few Adidas or whatnot. But I'll find whatever, and I'll just make it. I'll make it. But I go to Marshalls. I'll be getting shoes like $30 off the off sale or whatever. And if they look good, I'll just
like
rock
I said.
But I can't bring myself to bring that kind of money for the Jordans or LeBrons.
My most expensive pair of shoes is my Gucci's because I believe in it's how I was raised. Will you shut the fuck up over there, asshole? Like you need one really good dress pants to go to a wedding or to something. That's the only pair I have, and that's the one I always wear Sundays when I go to church and stuff like that. Except that's the only one. And I don't
I
think. Go ahead.
no. I was just trying to find the time to jump in. I stayed on a little bit longer, putting off an obligation, but I do have to bounce because I thought the convo was good, man. It was nice to meet
All
y'all,
right.
fellas.
Nice to
Take it
meet you.
easy
Okay.
now.
Thank you.
All
Yes,
right,
I'll see
peace.
you soon, brother.
Yeah.
take it easy.
So anyway, I was saying like I don't. Every person needs one pair of good shoes, but spend freaking all this money on just on shoes. I cannot do it. I cannot go like that. Like I have better things to spend my money on. Like, and I think all of us in this group right now will say that too. There are other things that we can spend our money that is more worth it than shoes. Any
Yeah.
disagreement?
Although I would say, I'll say this, especially when it comes to dress shoes. Now, I don't mind a guy spending money on a good quality pair that you'll take care of.
And that's
Like I used to
different.
rock a lot of Stacy Adams and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Nice looking on the outside, but you walk some Stacy Adams for like a couple hours, and your feet about to fall off. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? So I had to start giving up style, you know, looking good for like, a good quality pair. But you got to get school. So again, Trey, you know about the shoe polish, right? You know
Oh
about that
yes, sir.
rag.
Yeah,
You got
yeah,
to
yeah,
get,
yeah.
you got to
I
ball
know what you're
things up.
talking about.
You know what I'm saying? So I mean, those I don't mind you investing in. So a floor shines level and up in terms of the quality of the shoe, and you can make that dress shoe or that business shoe last a long time. But again, especially if you do a
Yeah.
lot of walking or whatever, them fancy dress shoes or whatnot, even the Italian ones, they'll wear you out. So I'd much rather have a soft sole. A lot of those shoes I had to put inserts on them, like gel inserts to be a little
I
more
will give
comfortable.
you.
But again, if
I'll give you something that you go like this is way back. This is probably Hashim's time. That's how back I'm going right now.
Here we go. Here we go.
So remember those these kids or old man you should see shoe shiners on the corner of the streets that used to do it.
heck yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember that because in Greece it's still a thing actually. I can go anywhere in Greece to get my shoe shined. I was right outside there, it's just like, and they have a little
it's
chair
one of the
things.
it's one of the saddest things ever. Because like I said, I'm in the New York area, Northeast area. You go to like Newark train station or Penn Station, New York, or
Mm-hmm. Penn
whatever,
Station.
and they still have those. They still have the stands. They still have the where that once was, but nobody's there. Now, I don't know if they just
Yeah.
weeded them out or the guy, but that's like one of them old school kind of craftsman type things that a lot of young
Mm-hmm.
guys just don't do anymore. You know what I
And
mean?
Yeah.
yeah.
And see, I think right now that's what's really needed. That's what's really needed in our whole culture as a young African American male perspective. I think it's like I say, brother Ben, you heard me saying, as far as timing, as our time in history right now, it's a great opportunity to flood those markets
Yeah.
because the dynamic is going to change. And the one thing that I think is sad about it for me looking at it, a person that has worked through it and been I've been blessed, man, by my life, man. I'm telling you, man, where I'm at and what I'm doing. I just try to share as much information because it's not a difficult task to do, especially now. Y'all in these streets, everybody talking about we can't get a relationship. So now, as a young man, regardless of you came from a single mom or two parent, college, military, trade, entrepreneur, but you got to be business minded. You can't be talking a lot, talking about your business. You got to be doing your business, then making your money. So that's how I look at that. But
Mhm.
that's the only options you got in America as a young man. We've all walked through the gamut. We've all took our lumps and bumps, and look how we strong. You know what I'm saying? You got to put yourself in a position to step away from what's comfortable. But if you look back the last 30 years, the African, I don't know, man. It's like we standing still in quicksand, and everybody else is moving around us because we have a stake in America. But if we don't build families and become a unit, and a family ain't just my siblings or whatever, it's other men and women.
Yeah.
It's other
Yeah.
men, and we need that because we can talk about all the stuff we did. Just think about how when you look back, your life wasn't even bad. You didn't realize you didn't realize your parents really didn't have money until you got away from home. Like, damn,
Exactly.
what? I
It's
thought
like
I was doing good.
it's
So
like you appreciate.
here's go ahead, Hashim. Go ahead first. You go
I was
first.
about to say it's like you appreciate your parent. Well, you always appreciate your parents, but it's like you just like he said, you appreciate them more now just to know what they was going through. You get on
Mhm.
your own, you like, holy crap. No wonder a lot of times I heard no or couldn't do or this or that and that. you understand more when you get on your own.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I agree on that. So one thing I've been realizing over the years as I'm getting older and grayer, um, a lot of old jobs like butcher, for example, is dying out. And that's kind of
Yeah.
scary in my opinion because if the butcher dies out, who's going to be cutting our meats? The machine? AI? What?
Well, that's already being done. It's at the factories now
Yeah,
because
that's where I was
I
going with
mean,
it.
mostly I stop at Stop and Shops in my area. So like I was and like one time I literally asked, because they used to cut the meat and put it out in the packs. The
Hmm.
guy told me recently that all the meat now gets shipped in because you used to
Wow.
be able to get off on like if you wanted like the leftovers, they would have those like markdowns. Or if you want the shank or the hocks or
Hmm.
the whatever it was, if you wanted to put it in some stew or some soup or whatever, you used to be able to get that. Now you can't find any of that stuff anymore. I would even get bones for my dog, from there. But all the meats are pre-packaged at I guess the plant or whatever to get the stuff from, and it's just shipped in. So the butcher in that used to be behind the meat area, they shut all that down.
Wow.
You know what? It ain't really. It ain't really. It's like it's not really shut down. But when you look at us as a history and the as the workforce that we've had to endure, how we did it from my generation, because we seen the beginning of all the technology from nothing to where it is today.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? We multitask all of that. You know what I'm saying? I think when they took away a lot of the public education, the vocational tech, because at one time they sent a lot of the children that was in single parent homes, projects, whatever it was, multiplex homes, they sent them to a lot of vocational tech during high school. And a lot of those guys a lot of those women came out, man, they was retiring at 52 years old, 53,
Right. Yeah.
So, and then they had the
Yeah.
military.
Well. Oh,
So you gotta figure it out, man. Because I went to college
well.
at
I've
high
said in
school,
the past. Yeah,
right?
you're right. Yeah. Now I've said in the past that first episode of the Cosby Show ruined a lot of us because
Mhm. Yeah,
that conversation that Cliff had with Theo about college versus he said he wanted to be in the janitorial or garbage man or whatever. Them guys
hmm
make good money, man. And
hmm
at the end of the series, he became a teacher, a
yeah,
special ed teacher, and
yeah,
there's no money in that. So the arc of the show. So again, that and I think certainly the Gen Xers and maybe some of the later baby boomers had a lot to do with that. We were the ones who were pushing, or it was pushed to us. I know it was definitely pushed to me. Go to college, and
hmm
get that degree, or whatever. But then we got out of the trades, and so there was always a stigma. Like I know in my area,
yeah,
anybody who went to Tech, you thought
yeah,
they were either from the hood or they
yeah,
weren't as smarter than the other guys or whatever. And so we
yeah,
put a stigma on that. And now we're talking about, and now in 2024, we're talking about well, we're all the tradesmen, we're all the craftsmen, we're the electricians, the plumbers, the mechanics, and all those jobs, which you cannot outsource to India or China or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So we lost a generation thinking that getting that piece of paper was it. And even for the ones who are doing it now, for a lot of these people, they're going into debt to get these degrees, especially if you go out of state. That's crazy. To go out of state to spend double or triple the money to go to college, and then you coming out with debt, and then now you starting off at negative to try to pay that debt off. So I think the message, I think it got overdone and it was oversaturated to say go to college to get any degree. And again, people going to college to English lit is fine, as a topic, as a subject, but what are you going to do with that? You know what I mean? So it came to my girls. I got my youngest one is 20. I said, look, unless you're going for business, finance, engineering, something that you can make money with, don't waste our time. I'm not going for you to study art history. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So I think that, but that
that's
was
bad.
like the cool thing, back in the 80s and in the 90s and everything. People got that, but now people paying the price for it. Now you got trillions of dollars in college loans that people can't pay off. So I think that I think we all need a reset,
Yes, sir.
and focus in on those skills. The skills still pay the bills. So
Yes.
again, those things that maintain the society. I always feel like Like the way this culture is built right now, it's almost like a house of cards, and all you need is just a little something just to throw that off, and we'll be back to the dark ages, so to speak. So who are going to be the pipe fitters? Who knows how to do certain skills, or you just say, oh, I'll just hire someone to do it. But what about those basic skills that people need just for survival? So I think we definitely need to reprioritize the conversations that guys are having with your 12, 13-year-old child and say, hey, what do you want to do with your life or whatever. Don't necessarily think that going to college is the thing. Figure out what they want to do, see what's profitable, and push them into that.
So here's my
But
pushback on this a little bit.
I'm sold. Yeah.
Texans,
Yeah.
baby.
Yeah.
Texans.
Okay, here's my little pushback on this. Okay, so it's great. Trade schools are great. I'm a chef. Hashim's a chef too. We're both chefs in dietary departments. But there are a lot of people going to trade schools. Like I cannot tell you how many people I know are going for HVAC right now, and that eventually that field is going to be so oversaturated with workers. They're going to be paying them peanuts. Mechanic is a good example. When I came out of high school, I went to trade school for mechanic, and everybody was going for mechanic at the time. Guess what happened? That field got oversaturated to the point that we were paying you peanuts. I mean, like I remember starting out at maybe $10 an hour. Think about it, $10 an hour as a mechanic. That's nothing. Then eventually, I work myself up, whatever. But I make more money being a freaking chef than versus being a grease monkey. There's nothing wrong being a grease monkey. I know electronics and all that stuff is great field, but I think the trading field is going to be oversaturated at one point.
But I think, but I would include what you're doing kind of in the trade field. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying the type of skills that you need to work with your hands.
Yes, sir.
You know what I'm saying? Those type of skills will never be out of demand. It's just about finding the right one. Now, again, you still need to do your homework. You need to do your research. What's advancing? I know even with the mechanics, that's changed because again, we're not working with carburetors anymore. You know what I mean?
Yep.
We're working with electric now. So
The program is different now. You need
those careers are looking for those individuals. So I still think you need to do some forecasting in terms of what's out there.
Yeah.
But again, even those skills, chef skills, cooking, culinary arts, there's still opportunity not only to work in that, but even to do your own. Know some people that got their own bakery, art, sweets and goodies, business, creations and stuff. I mean, they're doing all kinds of stuff with that. So I'm just saying that that needs to be part of the conversation. I'm saying lay everything on the table, lay college, trade, culinary, all that stuff on the table, and just kind of see where person goes. But the task should still be, you need to be able to be self-sufficient. You need to invest in something where you're going to be able to live independently and follow where that goes. But if you're not trying to spend all that money to go to college for something else you want to do, then don't go. And, I don't.
Wait a minute, I got a little pushback. Before that, Hashim, go ahead. You were going to say something?
No, I was gonna say, piggyback off where he was going. It's like these kids that they don't want to do no trade, where they don't want to do no hard work, hand work, everything. Oh, that's too hard. It's like you're trying to get them to do something now. You could forget it. It's sad now.
But fellas, that plays right into the demise of us, our Social Security, because you pay it forward. And a lot, and as I speak, Ruben, it's a sort of unique situation with the African American brothers and stuff. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy in America. And when we're talking about that 18 to 21-year-old, I mean, I'd say 21. That's official, where you can travel the world, work, come up with all kinds of stuff, man. Just do whatever, get your own car, you know what I'm saying, your own apartment, your own nice little gear, whatever it takes, your money in the bank, whatever you need to get a job. A lot of brothers are passing up that opportunity. And our numbers are still the same.
Okay, here's where I'm going to push back on a little bit. I'm going to push back. So you go to college. Okay, let's talk about college for a second. This is where I have beef with college right now. So let's say your major is, I don't know, engineering or project management. Great example, project management. But they make you take history, make you take math, take you all this stuff like that you don't need in your job title. So why? Because of the money situation. That's my problem with college. I have to take all these prayer stuff to take before I go into my own job, my own training, I guess if you want to call it, or studies for my job.
Right. Right.
That is my issue. I have to go for 10 years for project management, but I only learn it in 2 years. But the other 8 years is actually getting history and all this stuff. Don't get me wrong, I'm a big history person. I love history, but my major is project management. What does history have to do anything with project management? You see where I'm going with this for a minute?
Yeah.
Then you're over 100K in debt, and in reality is only 20K in debt, really what you actually needed. So that's my issue with colleges.
Nah, well, that's certainly part of the issue. Not only do they make you take prerequisites that don't necessarily apply to your major, but then also what people are taking.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, the impression was going to college was like a status symbol. Oh, you're a college graduate. That separated you from people who only went to high school or went to trade schools or whatever. I'm saying in today's economy, it matters less. In today's economy now, it's more about like people will get a master's degree. Like if you want, let's say if you were in a corporate job, if you wanted to advance, it's like, oh well, let me go and get my master's, so that'll make me a good candidate for management. IT's field for over 30 years, I can tell you. It's got nothing to do with your major degree. It's all about, can you deliver
Hmm.
on the project? We put you in this thing. Can you actually meet deadlines? Do you show leadership skills? Do you whatever? So a lot of that with the reasons why people even went to get higher education or secondary degrees and whatnot. It doesn't carry that much anymore. And most of the guys who I've worked with a lot of them didn't even major in computer or IT at all. They just kind of stumbled into it or whatever, or opportunity was there, and they just took it.
And they
So
Right.
probably
I'm like, I
making
spent 4 years getting a degree, and he's good in English, and he works the same job I do.
and probably
So
making
it's
more than him.
yeah. So
Mhm.
it's so that's what I'm saying. The discussions that parents need to be having with their teenage kids about what is the proper path going forward, for you. I think that needs to include a lot more of these options. But the mindset of you get good grades, you go to school, you go to college. That was just like programmed into us for decades, certainly since the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And now, especially with the debt that swelled up so much, I think people are holding back and saying, "Whoa, man, do I really need to invest this?" Especially like, and even when my kids were looking at schools, like we did the whole HBCU tour. Like, took a bus. They went on a bus trip and they went all over the South, going to all these HBCUs, looking at schools. Any school that you go out of state is minimum 40, $45,000 minimum.
Right. Yeah.
They went to Rutgers for half of that, and my wife works there, so
Yeah.
it's
So
so
you
you get
won there.
tuition
Win-win
reimbursement.
for you.
Was that?
Was a win-win for you a little bit there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But it's like the quality education is top. So like Rutgers like ranks like 15th in the country. But a lot of these kids here, it's like, oh, I want to go to Notre Dame or whatever. You want to have your parents spend $80,000 a year
Yeah.
going to Notre Dame, where you can go to Rutgers for 2025. You know, it just doesn't make a lot of sense. So I think like I said, all this, the money, everything has to be on the table in terms of what the plan is, and we shouldn't be shutting off these options to people.
And
Yeah.
that's the point. Like you shouldn't have there should be more enough options out there to say, hey, I can do X, Y, Z, or I can do this. Open options. And let's be straight up here, guys. Like when I came out of high school, thought I knew what I wanted. I knew everything, and I was a little cocky son of a bitch. I didn't know goddamn fucking shit. Let's be honest. I was a little punk like all of us were at one point. My Terrason was talking. The only thing I really cared about, like chasing those cheeks and clapping those cheeks. That's what my most important thing was for me at the time. Like every guy back then. But the thing, I should have listened more to my parents, saying stay local or do this, go for something else. I don't think mechanic is really a good route for you. Did I listen? No. And I was like 80,000 K in debt afterwards, and I paid for it,
Wow.
and I don't do it anymore. So
Yeah.
that's now I'm a chef like Hashim. Me and him are both chefs. And Hashim, did you major in anything in college? I never asked you that question.
Electrical.
Electrical. That's a good example.
No, excuse me. Let's back up. No, I didn't go to college. That's where I did that in high school. Trade.
Okay.
Yeah. So
So
gave
you
him a vision.
and when's the last time you did any electrical work for as a career?
Before doing cooking, I was 2000, maybe 2002. I was
Okay.
doing it up to then, and then I moved
Oh,
up to
so you did it for a while.
Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Yeah, I moved up to Pennsylvania and tried to do it, and it just went south. And I just started getting into other things, and I saw cooking, and I went into that.
I needed a good electrician right now. I ain't
But
gonna lie.
yeah, I mean,
But
same
see,
here. The money I've been paying, absolutely.
Yeah.
brother, the dynamic to what you said a little while ago about college and trade and whichever path you choose and how the financial difference was staying in state and going out of state. The dynamic is, and y'all can tell me if I'm wrong. If most of our young men are born out of wedlock, young women born out of wedlock, they're not getting that message. And they're not getting that vision because if you look at a lot of young men coming out of high school from these type of homes, they have no, and we speak about it, they have very few. It's millions of young brothers coming out of high school every year, at least 6 to 10 million. Less than 4 or 5 million are even thinking about going to I say about three are even thinking about going to that next step in life. A lot of them still running around here lollygagging, chasing women who just understand the dynamic of what it is because they'll have a financial child by you and sort of ruin you. But it's the boy's fault because he had sex, but he's still not taking the opportunity within that child to build on that. Because that's not the end all. Just because you have a child early, you still have opportunity to get out here, learn the skilled trades, learn some electrician, learn some culinary, how to cook. A brother that can cook, he gonna be good. He gonna
Mhm.
always be good with everybody. You know what I'm saying? But they ain't doing that. They ain't doing that. They playing games. They sagging their pants. They spending $3,000 instead of investing that on some tennis shoes.
They want the
They get
fast
money.
money.
So, but see, that's the lack of fatherhood, lack of vision right there, and that's what the dynamic need to change.
Mhm.
We can change that because brothers need to hear that message. Stop chasing these little hot wig young women, man. It's a waste of time. And see, the women are changing. We just try to find a way to not pay attention to them.
And that's the problem we have. That's the problem we have, like in a lot of generations.
Don't call them back. Make them
So
call you. Make them look for you. If they don't, you know what it is. I mean, you got to keep.
so the problem with the fatherhood thing is a lot of fathers are not in their kid's life. And if they are, they're more the provider, not the father figure. And sometimes you need the father figure and the provider and everything else. Even your best friend should be your father. You should be able to go in the backyard and shoot hoops or go to the gym and lift weights or get on the PlayStation and play PlayStation and argue, hey, PlayStation's better than Xbox, for example, or whatever. Or hook up the old Super Nintendo, like, hey, son, let's play this old school. He's look at you like, damn, dad, how old you are? Stuff like that. So, but most people don't do that. That is the problem I have.
I mean, of course they don't do it grooming, but it's a little different. You know what I'm saying? Because even those individuals having sex, they're not even educated about the responsibility past that. They just trying to get it in.
Mhm.
The, even if they, what I'm saying, had a child, even if now, if if anything outside of those two get involved with it, such as the government, because the government is always going to come from the brother grooming. They're going to always say, okay, you're going to pay child support. You ain't getting by. And they're going to make you pay maximum.
Facts. Facts.
Whether you make a minimum wage or a big time job, it don't matter. You know what I'm saying? But and what that is, that puts you in a financial bind because you already $6,000 in the hole and you ain't went to college. You ain't even got a good job yet. And
Yeah,
if
but
you don't pay, they take your driver's license, your
yep.
skilled trade license. So you continue to go in a hole throughout this whole 18 years. Then if a man, because the brother, he's still trying to work through, if he find another woman, if the baby mama get bitter, she gonna groom that baby against him. She gonna teach him everything opposite. And then that's all those dynamics. And then he still gotta go to work. He still gotta find a way. He can't find it. He gotta find a, you know what I'm saying? Don't nobody really want to be alone. You want to try to find a woman. You know what I'm saying? But if the brothers would just get what they need, like I said, get one pair of shoes for each little thing, get one minimize the expenses on the partying and the game. You know what I'm saying? You can get you an Xbox game or whatever, but as far as all that extracurricular junk, brothers will still be able to survive through that. And then by the time they 35 and 40, the kid will be grown. Man, they can live like a king out here. Have you a skilled trade by the time you 45? Man, it don't matter. You'll go into the next millennium all over the world, man. We can do it. It won't take that much time. That's how I feel,
So
man, all day.
here's where I'm gonna push a little back again. So we were even talking about this last night on BMU's show. So with teaching a young man he wants to get his pecker wet, great. But why don't you tell him if you want your pecker wet, wrap your shit up, boy, or you're gonna be a father. A lot of kids don't tell me you say go in raw, sonny, all this stuff. But here's where I get have a little bit more an issue. In the state of Pennsylvania, for example, if your child support is say you're short, say $1 for argument's sakes, it's up to the mother. Say he didn't pay $1, he's $1 short. Throw his ass in jail.
Grooming. That's in Kentucky, Louisiana,
That's yeah. I was about to
Texas,
say
I
that's
don't
New
know the
York,
states.
Maryland. I'm just saying, the laws are pretty much the same across the board in every state. Some states are worse than others. Some
Yeah.
states they can take up to 45, 50%, 51% of your income. Whether you and grooming, understand this, please understand this, and you hear it in these streets. Most of the children being born in our community, unfortunately, there's no real 6, 8, 10 months, 5 year committed relationships. We're hooking up early, we hooking up fast and having children early into the relationship. So
Mm-hmm.
there's really no relationship. Then by the time the
no.
baby's born, the parents are already not together. So that's where we got to break that cycle right there. That's where we got to break it, and that's where we're disconnected. When crack came along, feminism took the father out the home. That's why you have a father had homes on two sides of towns back in the 60s and 70s and 80s, because he had to stay over here one time when the social workers over here over on the other side. Then he had to switch it up. So, and a man, if he's a good looking brother back then, make it, he can have two women like that, and wasn't nobody saying nothing. Then crack took those mothers out the home, because children in foster care went up 100. It's like 300-400% across the country, because a lot of these mothers was smoking that dope. A
Hmm.
lot of they, a lot of their brothers, a lot of their uncles and protectors of the family, they were either getting killed or going to jail. They were going to jail, and some of us was able to escape because we knew, like, I'm going to the military, I'm going to college, I'm gonna get this job over here, and I'm gonna work the hell out of this job. Some brothers had it, and more than most of us did that. But when crack came in, crack took those mothers out the home, and a lot of these 40 somethings, they were raised without a parent in the home. That's why a lot of them had this domestic trauma. We wasn't talking about no low self esteem, abuse, and all that. It was happening in probably 1% of every state, and it really wasn't us, because brothers back in the day, when we was lovers, we was lovers. We was rubbing all on your feet. We was lovers. We wasn't out here selling. We wasn't out here like that. Wasn't nobody walking around with no gun talking about I'm gonna shoot you. Wasn't doing that. But now this is where we are. So how can we fix it?
See,
That's my thing.
see, back then, I felt like okay, you had a beef with somebody, you just took it, you went, whatever, duked it out, and you're good. Now, if you got to beef with somebody, like, one, is gonna be a one-on-one fight, or B, is gonna be a weapon involved? You don't
Oh,
know.
one on one, they're gonna shoot you.
Exactly, that's my
Yes.
point. Ashim, you're a grandfather now,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
Like,
Congrats,
Yes.
how many grandkids you have? Like 10?
Just one. 10. Don't wish that on me. Just one. Just one from my oldest. And like I said, it has this history repeat itself. You're young, just like you were saying, you're chasing girls and you're chasing them and chasing them. Shoot, if I had $1 for everyone I told I love, I'd be rich by now. So, and I had a child young, and you had to, once you had the child and I was out there playing, now you had to do things different. You had to work and you had to provide. And mother and moms and pops wasn't here. That that's what you wanted to do. You had to get out there and get it. They wasn't
Right.
playing, so
Right.
I had to do it and working out. Like I said, from as soon as 18, really hitting it that hard because I called myself. I'm gonna say 8 to 17, 18 because before I was playing around, I said, yeah, 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 I'm working, but you was chasing the girls. All of a sudden, the child came, everything changed. Had to work, and a lot of things you couldn't do. Ma, could you watch the baby? Hell no, they wasn't watching nothing. Why am I watching it? You the one that had the child, not me. And the only way she would talk about watching the child, you better be working, you better be doing some overtime, you better have another job. That was the only way. You talking about going to the park or something like that, she was looking at you like you was crazy. So it was different. And I got a little older and my child there, but she followed footsteps. She had a child when she was young. And as much as you try to tell these kids and what you've been through and how it is and how it was, fell into the same thing. We can talk about it now, and she said, "I see what what you were saying, you know, but it's all good."
So, brother, I want to ask you this: you grew up in a home with two parents.
Yes.
I also grew up in a home with two parents. Brother Ben, did you grow up in a home with two parents?
No, I did not.
Okay, Groom, I know you say you grew up with grandma, right?
Most of my grandmother and my parents were together till about 2 years ago.
Okay, so my question is this: did grandmama or mama, either one, go to either the club, the party, the drinking party, or did they go to the church picnic and the family reunion and gatherings?
Okay, my grandmother or my mother or my father would never go to any club, party, bar. My dad used to have a beer with his friends once in a while,
There you go.
but that's
There
it.
you go.
But my grandmother, every Sunday, she used to wake my ass up, go to church. I used to save her seat, go back, get dressed as an altar boy, do my little thing. Like
All right, good.
then
Well,
after.
mine actually were a little bit different in that my parents split basically when I was born, 1970 or whatever it was. Pretty much they were, off. But they never divorced, by the way. That was the thing. Back in the day, parents would split, but the D word was like that was like, you're going to hell for that if you divorce. So um,
Hmm.
but they used to be part. Now back in the day, they were known for what I was told, they were known for having parties though. See, back
Okay.
in the day, you had house parties. So
Yeah,
the
house party.
aunts, the uncles, it would be they would come over and you part or you would go to their house. So every weekend, they were very much party people for a long time. So my oldest siblings, I'm the youngest of five, and my oldest siblings, when they were together, they would tell me about all they would get up and they would go to New York, and they would go to Jersey City or or whatever, and they would have these folks would be together. So there'd be the music playing, the record player would be playing, there'd be food, there'd be drink, there'd be whatever. But there was a part about they loved to go out and do that, but they did it as a husband and wife though. So they weren't going to the club
Yeah,
trying to get
yeah,
to take anybody home. They were,
right.
as a married, but that was the thing. There was like a communal aspect to that kind of environment. But yeah, you get that big old record player, the big console in the living room, and the records would be on, and the
All
drink would
one
be flowing,
piece.
and yeah, I mean, so that's the only club they know. I don't think they even knew what a real,
And
not like the clubs today.
that's my point. Is like it was different back then, and it's completely different. Guys, give me 1 second. I gotta step away for a second. Hashim, take over the show for a few minutes. All right.
There you go. We can talk, no problem.
All right. Thanks.
Talking about parents, let me tell you. I know y'all know. I couldn't even say I saw my parents partying or anything like that. It was more. It was a strict thing. I didn't even know
Mm,
if they drink, smoke, or what have you. I mean, they said they didn't, and that's how we was brought up.
Okay.
But
mm,
you didn't see them things. I didn't
Right.
see it.
Right.
I
Out of
didn't.
respect.
Yeah, out of
Yes.
respect, and I guess that's how I grew up. You
Right.
didn't drink in front of children or anything like that. It's almost like almost like a separate life that they didn't even know if you was doing it,
yeah.
Right.
and that's
Yeah.
how it was. Now it's totally different. You see them, they smoking with the kids, they drinking with the kids, now some of them even partying with the kids.
They buying it for 'em. I
Yeah.
didn't even have a beer with my father till I was like 30. 30, I think I was 30, 31. Yeah, I mean, because growing up, my mother didn't drink, and my mother, man, she could throw down. You talking about a woman that could throw down? I ain't never dated a woman that couldn't cook, man. I don't care what you look like. I ain't even coming over your house if you can't cook. That wasn't
Right.
me, man. 'Cause my mama could cook it from the pastries. That's what they call it
Yeah.
today. We call it desserts, all the
Yeah.
way to the main course, and she would
Hmm.
throw barbecue ribs, whatever.
uh,
And my
that's
daddy,
right.
My daddy couldn't boil water, but he was spoiled though. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
But that's
But
how they
You
he
were
found the
back
one.
then.
You found the
my,
one.
my father worked for Louisville Slugger for 35 years, man. He
Oh,
invented
okay.
some machines over, you know what I'm saying? And but yeah,
Mhm.
he had a big drinking problem, man. My father was drinking
Mm.
heavy, man, all my life. But he had did some he had some great accomplishments, man, but he wasn't really telling me what he needed to tell me because he was, man, my father was out there. And my grandfather was a pastor,
Oh, wow.
ordained
Mhm.
pastor. And look, Brother Benny, my grandfather, my father's mother passed when I was 6, and it's crazy. You know how we talk about as a man's value get older, he can still get the young women.
Mhm.
His wife was
Mhm.
a year older than my father. My grandfather's when my grandma passed, my grandfather remarried. His wife was a year older than my
Right.
father. You know what I'm
Older than
saying?
your father.
Right. And my grandfather
Wow.
and my grandfather lived to be 94 years old, and they
Wow.
stayed together till they passed away. You know what I'm saying? And that was
Right.
back in the
Right.
70s. What was that? I was 6 years old. So shit, I was 74, 75.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And they built, and my grandfather, you know, he was a disciplined guy. My father used to go through his little stuff, but my father was always there. From the
Yes.
Yeah.
time I was growing, he taught me, he took me all the way through sports, high school, college, you know, and he went to the military, but he ain't really get caught up in the military. Like he did his little time, and he's a guy that I've been working Louisville Slugger for 35 years, and they retired him like he's a CEO.
Mm.
But I see his struggles, and that sort of deterred me to just stay in my lane. You know, I respect it. I'm telling you, man, the way I talk about my life, man, is just such a blessing, man. I've always
Yeah.
respected people and people, places, and things. That was big for me.
I
I've
don't know.
coached, mentored, and counseled. And I work with convicted felons ages 16 through 66 because that's sort of like the age range. And I work with foster care. I worked in high school. Brother Benny, like you say, man, all of those, um, it's like 4 E's now: enrollment, enlistment, employment, and now entrepreneurship.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And just that whole dynamic, man, working with families. I spent
Yeah.
17 years in Chicago, man.
All right.
Yeah.
And that's the hub for social services. When they want to learn that, they come to Chicago from anywhere in the world because they
Mm.
got
Right.
a mixture of everything. And I was in every project, every
Right.
neighborhood, from the far south to the far north. I'm telling you. And then I spent 6 years in the south. You know, from riding from the what's that, the Panhandle, all the way through New Mexico.
Right.
I was down there, man. I learned so much, man, and I made so much. I made so much, man. And now, like I say, man, I'm retired. I
Nice.
don't want for nothing. Me and my wife go
Mhm.
live out the rest of our lives, not
Nice.
wanting for nothing. I don't want
Nice.
nothing,
Nice.
you know. And I loving it, man. And I'm just gonna keep sharing it, man. So
That's what's up.
I'm,
That's what's up.
Good for
But
man.
it
you.
goes. But I think what you just described in terms of your background, I think it also goes to show that just as parents, like we're trying to sort of mitigate and empower, mitigate issues or situations, and also empower our kids to do better. But there's also an aspect of it where people are just going to be who they're going to be. So you said that your grandfather was a pastor, and your father had a different lifestyle for him, but he was still, an accomplished in certain ways, but he had his issues, and then you turned out to be somewhat different from your father. So it's like,
Yes,
we
totally.
so you can create an environment, but people are
Mm-hmm.
still going to be individuals. So
Oh,
so
yes.
part of parenting is how do you raise them in such a way, but at the same time recognize they're going to be their own people at the end of the day. And
Yes,
there's only so much engineering that we can do with people, because I see a lot of parents either beating themselves up, say, "Oh my God, man, my kids, we did so much for our kids, how they turn out this way." But at the same time, I know some of the best fathers I know came from single parent households. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Because they made up in their minds a decision to say, well, whatever experience that I had growing up, I'm not going to repeat it.
mhm,
So it's
yeah,
one thing I think we also need to communicate to younger people is it doesn't matter how you got here, you can't change it. You're here now. But
You hear?
whatever dysfunction that you may come from or what have you, you can literally make a decision to rewrite your story.
You can
oh
always
yeah,
make a change.
for sure, right, for sure,
You can rewrite.
100,000.
You can. you can change that. And so I think that's a message, especially since we talk, because and that's certainly since I've been in these spaces, that's a message that I wanted to be able to communicate more, because I know we talk a lot in these spaces about the dysfunction in the black community, for example, and things of that nature. But at the same time, I want to be able to, encourage people to say, look, you don't have to live in this if you don't want to. If you want to have a different narrative, if you want to have a different story, it's in your hands if you want to change those things. And I think that's certainly, I think with the, seeing and examining the dysfunction is one thing, but having a solution or a path for people to say, hey, if you want to improve out this situation, here's some things that you can do. I think we need to empower people to do that. But just in your story, 3 generations you talked about, very different people, very different outcomes and whatnot. And then you got sons in their early 20s now. And again, where they're gonna go with their lives, we pray the best for them. Just like I got 3 daughters, you got 24, 21, and 20.
Hmm.
And
Oh yeah,
so, they're in the
yeah,
process of, coming into their own as far as, but I gotta let them at the same time be their own people. It's like my wife and I, we can talk them until they're blue in the face. But at this point, I feel like I'm less of a parent now and more like counselor, advisor,
yep,
coach.
yes
And
sir,
and so
sir.
look, here it's here for you if you want it. And
Yep.
it may be years before. In fact, that's what I loved about Black Man Show the other night when he brought his son on, and I asked that question: it's like when did it start kicking in for you in terms of like recognizing what your dad was telling you all this time? He said it was only about a year ago. What I mean? Where he started to, because before everything was like, well, dad says, well, you should do this or that or whatever. But you know, you don't know when that light's gonna come on. You could be, hopefully, you get it early, but you might be 40 years old before you start to say, you know what, dad was right, or mom was right about whatever it was.
Might take a while, but you're gonna say it.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So you have to, but we have to let that ride in. Like sometimes I even tell my wife now, I got to pull her back because she's still mom. You know what I mean? So I got to pull her back and say, look, you made the point 4 or 5 times already. All right, pull it back. They either gonna get it through wisdom, your wisdom, or they're gonna get it through their experience. And as a father, I think where I think fathers really excel in is you got to let your kids fall. If they ever want to grow up to be mature people, you got to let them fall. You just be there to help them get up when they fall. But after telling you 2 or 3 times, don't touch that stove. I got to like, all right, go ahead, and you
Two or
come
three,
back,
2 or 3 times. You didn't have 2 or 3 times back then. You had one time, and it was
son.
gonna knock you over the head.
Yes
I
sir,
understand.
God
So
damn,
that was.
if you
yes
go
sir,
crazy.
I'm
yes
only
sir,
telling you how it was. You
Okay.
only had. If she told you, if your mother told you something twice, you was lucky.
yes
You
sir.
was lucky. If it
Mm,
wasn't a switch, it was a shoe,
right.
or what was
Yes,
that
sir.
thing that she cooked with the pot,
Spatula,
not the spatula, but the wooden
the
it was
wooden
like,
spoon.
yeah, that too. You caught it. You caught it. My brother,
I'll shoot.
I'm younger than he's 10 years older than me. He caught it the most.
Mm,
She was short, but she always said, "Listen, you taller than me, but I'll break you down." And she broke us down a lot.
mhm.
And I think where he was going with the respect, and I think that's where it carried on, is you had to have respect. I don't care which way, form, fashion you had it. It was respect. You wasn't talking out of line. You wasn't talking when grown folks was talking. If your mother or father was speaking and you cut in, if you didn't hit the floor, you was lucky. So it was always when you look back at it, you say, "Wow, my parents should have been in jail for life." When you're looking at this day and age, because
Yeah,
now you can't even touch a child before they start talking about child services and nothing, and all you're doing is disciplining them. And I think, to me,
Yeah.
I think that's a little bit of the problem what's going on now. I'm not talking about abuse where you taking extension cords and going a little bit out the way. I'm not talking about that type of beat. I'm talking about a good old fashioned tail whipping where you know you was wrong and you ain't gonna do it again.
but brother, it's
I'm
A
yeah.
backhand once
I'm
in
a
a
little I'm a
while.
little Yeah, I'm a little mixed on that one. I got to say, and part of it is because of, I guess, how I was raised, and again, there was a lot of dysfunction where I was at.
Hmm.
Um, I think there's a middle ground because I think back then where it was like parents were absolute and you just did what they said and whatnot. I think that helped to reproduce, like you basically reproduce a duplicate of of that generation, but you didn't necessarily create an individual.
Well, that's true
And
too.
for me, I'm always straddling that line between, again, people, like I think our job as parents, I think, is to produce the best version of our offspring. They're going to have different gifts, different abilities, different aptitudes, different ways of doing things. You obviously, you give them a foundation, you give them values, you give them principles, but you got to let them be who they're going to be. And I think for a lot of those
And
people who were afraid to speak, like, again, I think it's been healthy with, certainly with Gen X and millennial generations, where you could have a conversation. I know my kids, and us, like, I don't think I was ever so heavy handed where my kids we couldn't, have a conversation. And a lot of times, a lot of those parents, they acted in certain ways is because, one, that either they didn't have knowledge, or something. It's like, I don't know, stop asking me. If you
yeah,
ask them why, stop asking me or whatever, because because I said so.
brother,
Because
brother,
honestly, they didn't have an answer.
you couldn't
They
See,
didn't
ask
have an
why.
answer. They didn't have
oh,
a solution for it.
brother Bennett, you'd have
so
been
You know,
different if you had boys. You'd have been different if you had two boys. If you had a couple of boys having girls, yeah, daddy got soft fart for them girls, boy. Yes, sir.
mm.
If you'd had a
Like I said,
boy,
yeah,
yeah,
I,
okay.
again, certainly having knowing guys who've had sons, I think it's similar. At least, like I said, in our generation, I think we wanted to do something. I think a little bit. Even Trey, I think, you would have to admit that you probably raised your sons a bit different than how your father raised you, right?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Right. So I'm saying, we can go back to how we were raised, and again, there was the strict my way or the highway, do as I say, not as I do, that kind of thing.
Well, not that strict.
But I think,
no,
it's healthy to help to develop someone who knows how to think, not just telling them what to think.
Not
You can say
yes,
you
sir.
can create a clone replica of yourself, but really, the that individual, how do you make them the best version of themselves? I think that's harder because that requires patience, that requires understanding, that requires listening. And for a lot of parents back then, because either they were working 16 hours a day or whatever, they didn't have time to listen, they didn't have time to have a conversation. Everything was the way it was. And also, there were a lot more kids. So I think also what might be different more so about whether or not we have boys or girls or not is, I think, the fact that we're having fewer. Because back then, my dad came from 13
yeah, there
and
was
my
a lot
mom came
back then.
from 9. So then you didn't have time to figure out what was going on necessarily with each and every single one of your kids to have that time or whatever. You had to have like a structure of some kind just to maintain all of that, you know, all those voices and all those mouths in the home. You had to have one rule essentially because you couldn't allocate the time. But now most people today have, 2 kids, maybe
But brother Bennett,
3. When they have 3 kids, I was like, oh man, you got a lot of kids. Yeah.
in regards to the children, have I don't know what the numbers are, but I believe our numbers are pretty close to the same as far as children compared to adults in our African American community since we've been here since the 1865. It's always been around the same number. I don't know what the ratio of the children. So even if you said some parents, and that's what I'm saying, a lot of mothers, not a lot, but some mothers had 10, 9 families. Even families had 8 kids. I come from
Yeah.
7 children. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Yeah.
But the difference was we had our fathers, and the father brings that different dynamic. He balances the chaos out, whether it's a male or a female, because even your daughters and daughters that have, and it's always the proof is there, that have been raised by fathers, they're not out here promiscuous at 17, 18. They pretty much even getting what they need to get as far as career rise, and then focusing on a husband or someone, just getting married and still doing both and thriving. The family's thriving.
Oh,
But
sure. Yeah.
the numbers are
For
still the
sure.
same as far as a lot of single motherhood. Now it's becoming a thing of the voice of women. So whether you have 1 or 2 children, if most of the women are having children like that, the numbers are still going to be drastically high. They're going to be tremendously high, and that's scary because most of them are still not getting out here into the workforce. A lot of those mothers thinking that the government is about to cut all these single women off, so they need to come to us, and that's why this is our greatest time. We're gonna
Hmm.
do it. We're gonna take over in 24.
Hmm. Exactly.
But did you have a comment on that? What we were just talking about? I'd like to hear from your perspective.
Who you talking?
Paul, who are you talking to?
Hashem,
Hashim,
Hash,
you're up.
Oh,
Hashem.
no, I was gonna go back because I know he was speaking about the. I'm gonna go back to the respect thing about it, and no, you was talking about. Excuse me, you was talking about letting them be their on their own person, and their own. And I know that was one of the things I had to learn with my oldest
Mhm.
because I was trying to bring it how I was brought up,
Mhm.
and even though it was like I said, it was my way or the highway, but I didn't want it to go that route because that's a rough thing, and you're not trying to. Pops was almost ready to throw you out, but I will tell you this: you're not going to run the house, so it has to be some type of respect
Yes, sir.
going on. And I know
There does.
we
You're right.
had respect coming up, and I damn sure you're going to have respect in this house here, and not only in this house when you go outside, because when you go outside, you have to have respect. No respect out there. It was always said it's going to reflect back to the parents. It always
Right.
reflects back, and you have to have respect. I don't care who it is, you're going to talk to somebody with respect, and that's how we was
Yes.
growing up, and that's all I pushed to them. If you have respect, listen, talk to somebody how you would want to be talked to.
Yes,
Mhm.
sir.
Treat someone how you want to be treated. Now, does it always work? No,
You're
but you
right.
don't have to get out of pocket with them either. There's always a way to deal with someone,
Right, for
and
sure.
you have
And
to, like you said, you have to let your child. Hopefully, they come into their own person and they realize, and that's all you could do out these days because everybody going to be every person going to be what they're going to be, and regardless to how upbringing you brought them, they could be they could be terrible out there. And there's a lot of parents that there were two family, mother, father in the home, and the child still went out there been bad.
Right.
So you can't
Which is
just
the point
say,
I was. Right.
yeah, you just can't say it's a single family home singing it because you have two parents. It could be a judge, a lawyer. The mother was this and that. It was prestigious, and the child still went out there done bad, crazy things.
Yeah.
yeah.
That's what I was saying earlier. I mean, some of the best fathers I know didn't have father in the home growing up, or the father was just out there doing his stuff. But they just made a decision to say, yo, I'm not, I want something different.
I don't
My
want to
father
repeat it.
wasn't around, but I'm making a decision. I'm going to be around for my kids. And they're the
Yes.
most loving, most disciplined. My nephew is one of the best fathers I know. And I know his mother and, his father weren't together. They got together with my brother and she married him. So he became, raised by my brother. But again, he's like the best father. I mean, it's like none of that stuff has to be there. So I think at the end of the day, we can set the best environment we can, but people gonna be people, in terms of who they want to be. So as a parent, you don't beat yourself up so much for doing your best. I know plenty of preachers' kids who were out there running the streets,
Yeah.
and so um, so you only take on so much of that burden in terms of how you did as a parent. So I think
So
parenting is difficult,
Oh,
but
believe me,
I
you're
think
going to
that's what's
beat
challenging.
yourself up. I think if your child doing, hope that it doesn't happen that way, robbing, stealing, killing, or anything like that, or you're going to beat yourself up because you most likely you try to tell them the right way, you try to teach them the right way, and they still went out there. So yes, you're going to beat yourself up. You can't say
Mhm.
not to, but there's somewhere you're going to have to throw your hands up and be like, I tried.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna
But
throw
I
a
just
monkey
heard.
wrench here for a second, guys. So with my parents, with my father at least, like I couldn't go to him for stuff like that. Talk to him about X, Y, and Z. Like, oh, I want to get a tattoo, for example, because my father didn't understand that stuff I was into because he was like video games. So even to this day, like, what the hell's a video game? Because that's so stupid. And, like watching an anime, for example, and, like he looked at him like,
Mhm.
"Are you what 2-year-old? Grow the fuck up." He tell you, "Nobody, you're a cartoon boy." That's what he used to call me, and make fun of me.
Yeah.
So I couldn't,
Okay.
yeah, I couldn't go to my father about this stuff. So now,
Okay.
tattoo.
Yeah,
Huh.
that's it. And
yeah,
that's an aspect of that old school
Hmm.
what you
yes,
call it that
Yeah.
again it's limiting. Like I said, part of oh we talked about the 80s earlier and stuff and they like I said, I love the 80s, you know what I mean? But I gotta live in 2024.
Yeah.
That's where we
You know
are.
what
yep.
I mean? And there's a lot of people who never left the 80s or never left the 50s or never whatever generation that was. It's like you're like locked in time. And I know just even as a career, I can't do that. I'm in the IT space. I'm 54. I compete with 34 years old for
Yeah.
employment. So I can't, you know, I can't say that I used to learn COBOL or Fortran or whatever, and that's all I know. I got to be up on what's the new stuff that's coming up.
Hmm.
And I got to be able to learn that. I got to be able to embrace that. I can't show my age in my job. So I have to live in the present. So I talk to my daughters all the time about what is the generation that you're growing up in. What are you just like with Black Man when we doing Trey on Black Man show when the kids when your kids came up. I mean, we're asking what's the world from your perspective. So to me, that's parenting. That's like coaching. Like you can be Lombardi. You can watch all the Vince Lombardi tapes on coaching all you want to, but to coach in today's NFL, you try to be that heavy-handed guy or whatever, you're not going to be very successful.
You got to learn how to
So
relate with these ones that's playing
exactly,
now.
exactly. So that's coaching. In fact, I mean Mike Tomlin, he was saying he loves, like rhetorically, he said he loves coaches that make excuses for not coaching. You know what I mean? Like people, like these coaches are complaining about the players aren't doing whatever, but that's coaching.
That's coaching.
You know, if a player doesn't know have the skills, don't what a plays his plans, he getting penalties or whatever, and you're going to complain about it, that's a lack of coaching. You can coach a person to a player to play better or whatever, or it may not be for him, but to then complain about it, you know, you're not adding to the solution for the problem. So I think coaching, just like parenting, I think always has to be forward. See, back in the day, where you could get away with it because, especially up through the 20th century, the society basically stayed the same. Like whatever your parent was, you typically did. If you were a farmer back in the day, you were going to inherit the farm. Or you
Yep.
were a craftsman, a woodsman, or a tradesman, or whatever, you were going to automatically get into the business and do what your parents did. But in just in the last 50 years with technology and everything that's changed, most parents don't, I mean, most kids don't do what their parents want to do. I used to laugh when like my company used to have bring your kids to work day. I'm like,
Mm.
for what? They don't want to be here and they don't necessarily want to do what we're doing. And probably what we're doing is not going to be even a job for them when they grow up. When my daughters went to college, when she went for supply chain, she said the teacher at the beginning, at the orientation, said, by the time you graduate, what we teach you now is going to be obsolete.
Wow.
So you can't this is a fast moving train. Whereas before, the roots, the culture was the same for years. We came from a hunter gatherer to an agrarian to an industrial to an information, and now we're in a social media age. And the last two have been like a rocket ship. Like them first two were like this. They didn't change for years. I mean, agriculture still hasn't changed for thousands of years. You're basically doing the same stuff. But now, what we talked about earlier, the guy, the shoe shine guy,
Hmm.
that skill set has not changed. You can't. There's no machine that's been built. You can tell the guys who know how to shine and put that, you know, that swag on it. You can't. No machine, no AI has been able to replicate that yet. So that's not changing. But these other things, yeah, this is a very different place. So if you're not willing to relate to your kids in the world that they have to grow up in, not the world that you came from,
You're gonna lose
but the
them.
world that they grow up in, then you're going to have problems down the line in terms of being able to relate and then have impact and influence over your kids. So I'm saying, the way you parent has to change if you want to meet the challenges that these kids are going through today. And then so much, what happens so much in this time is a lot of the Gen Xers, I just speak to myself, complain about the generation that we raised. So who's going to be about, oh, these kids don't know stuff? Well, what did you teach them? You the one
Yeah.
who raised them. We did. So you
So
can't blame them and then not take responsibility for what you did in the process.
So the biggest thing with me is like with that stuff, like there's one thing I respect Hashim so much. Like he's into the newer stuff. Like I know he plays PlayStation 5 when he has time, or remember to put his glasses on, for example, or or you know he's into the sports and stuff like that. And that's what I respect for most of you guys too, because you guys are into the newer stuff, so you can relate with your kids. Versus with me, I couldn't relate. The only thing me and him had a comment was what kind of movies we liked. That's it.
Mhm.
So, but anyway,
Absolutely.
let's She, final thoughts. What are you thinking, man?
Uh, I don't know. Conversation, everything I hear what everybody's saying, but when it all boils down to me, it all, I'm gonna bring it right back to, I think with a lot of what these kids here is no respect. I'm hard on that. And when you see a lot of these kids, most of them out there, they don't hold the door for these, for nobody. They're cursing all in front of the grown-ups. I mean, it's just, it still bothers me because I know that's things going back. You couldn't do that back when. And
Nah,
you couldn't, you there was no way you could do that. But to hear it, and these girls on the train or the whatever, just cursing and cursing and cursing. I mean, like nothing. And you sit there and be like, where's everything going?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it hurts sometimes, but I try to stay on mine and be like, listen, that's not the way. Let them, they want to be all rowdy and rowdy, you let them be. But once again, you're around it. I was around it. I was around guys who did, Lord, I would even hate to say it right here on this thing, but you just have to be your own person.
Yeah.
Yeah. Trey, you're up, man.
I mean, I agree. You know, definitely with that. That respect. Always take respect and a little deeper. You got to have respect for womanhood and you got to have respect for manhood. That's missing. And for a young brother, you got to have a vision.
Mm-hmm.
You got to have a vision. You got to have a little bit of accountability, integrity.
Ah, that,
You got to
yes.
have your emotions under control, and you have to have some creativity and some humor. You need all that.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be able to do every. I've been saying this for I don't know how long, since I was in my 20s, man. A brother needs to be able to do 5 things with his hands
Mm-hmm.
and another 10 with his mind. It's not difficult. It's
No.
not difficult. If everybody just take a step back, I thought COVID was going to give us a chance to take a step back and reset and,
Ah,
allow people to take over and be more focused and just seeing the world, because now we got 2 wars going on.
yep.
The troops are not being replenished.
Mm-mm.
The job market, like Brother Bennett said, especially in the technology, nobody really is filling those roles. Even the service it's hard to get good customer service now.
Ooh, yes, it is.
And all of those skills too. Having good customer service will make you more money than anything. That is one of them skills that's like an underdog skill. One of them skills that go unnoticed. If you get great customer service, you can do anything in the world. You'll be able to pick up on a lot. Respect people. You gotta have respect for people, places, and things. And then it depends on which lane you want to go. If you want to get a career, focus on that. Man, especially for the man. The women, let them run around wild. And when you want to find somebody, then you look at her, she look at you. Then you like, this is what the plan is. If not, keep it moving. Then you can travel the world right now. You don't need a lot of money, but you need at least $10,000 more than we did back in
Yeah.
2020. But women are still spending $10,000 on themselves, not the kids.
I'm trying to
Brothers,
tell you.
child, go get your child in 2024. Just take yourself, get it through the legal system so you can get your money flipped back, so you can file the baby on taxes and take the baby on trips and do all the good stuff and just do all the great stuff that you can do with your child. Teach you how to read, your sons how to read, you
Bless you.
know, do a little, learn something, man, and just be great, man. We got this. You know what I'm saying? I don't care if you 21 to 61. We out here in this thing together. We all got the same big noses, same big lips, same big feet, same big hands, big shoulders. We got to do it together.
Hey,
And
That's
hey,
if
hey,
you,
right.
hey. Watch my nose. My nose is crooked, not big. Get it right.
but, but grooming, that's why you grooming in reviews, because you and an official cousin of us. You just understand that. And your story is your story, but you still had that representative there to even get on your nerves. So I don't think too many other people bother you just based on your relationship you had growing up. So you're still doing okay, man. Be proud of that. Be proud of that. You still working. You done been able to got 2 skill trades. I'm trying to get brothers to get 1 right now. If they can get 1.
Yeah.
If they can get 1, by the time they 35 and 40, their world would be dynamic. That's my thing, man. We can do this, man.
I'm gonna
Raise
touch
our
base
children.
when my turn comes around. Don't worry, I'm gonna touch base that. Paul, you're up, buddy.
I'm done.
Oh well, first of all, my first time being on, so it's been a pleasure to share the stage with you with these beautiful ball brothers on
I
this
can't win. I
platform.
can't
So
fucking win with this.
been a pleasure, good, good chatting it up. And also, we're all Gen X. Gen X again. We taking over the streets also. So it's good to be share this up with you guys and taking a retro trip back in time. I mean, in the '80s and the times that we grew up in. Each decade had its own challenges, and we've all grown through those to the point now we have kids of our own, and we're trying to help our kids navigate this ever changing and interesting world that they're in. So I think having these conversations that we can sort of share notes, share wisdom nuggets with one another on how to advise the next generation. I think it's good, it's positive, and it's uplifting. And so again, good to share the space. And again, definitely looking forward to next week sharing the floor with Peter with grooming. On Again, we're going to be launching a new show where we're going to be exploring the cultures of the world, different cultural experiences of people. The brother who was on earlier, King, I certainly would like to hear from him since he said he's done a lot of world travel, so he may be able to bring some perspective to the table. We'd love to hear from him. Yeah, so we're going to have a dialogue over a series of shows dealing with the differences that different how different cultures see things through the common experiences that everyone had, but also tap into some of the similarities about what unites us as human beings, because this is also a human experience that we're living out as well, even though we may live through it through an African American prism or a Greek prism or a European prism. But at the end of the day, there's things that unite us as people, and so we're going to be exploring that, from different perspectives. So I'm definitely looking forward to having this conversation with Peter, and to hopefully have an enlightening conversation. So I encourage everybody to certainly join us on this voyage together. And we're Peter and Paul, from the Bible here. We're going to be breaking a lot of this stuff down, and just looking forward to it from coming from 2 very different backgrounds and perspectives, and having this conversation. So thank you, Peter, for the opportunity. Thank you for the host having me on here tonight, and looking forward to what we're about to launch next week. So with Sundays, I believe 6 p.m. I think is going to be our start time, Eastern time.
No, 9:30.
Or is it going to be later? 9:30.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
I got my times mixed
I'm
up.
not.
9:30.
Yeah.
It's even better. Now it's even better. Even 9:30 Eastern time.
Yeah.
We're gonna kick this program off, and the title of the show is called "The Gray Area." So you got black guy, got white guy, gray area. So we're gonna break a lot of this stuff down. So looking forward to it and seeing how this unfolds. But again, thank you so much for having me tonight.
Anytime, brother. I want to thank all 3 of you. I want to also thank King for coming. You guys are always welcome. Before I get into my final thoughts, stick around after the stream. I want to go talk to you guys for off stream for a second too. Okay, so went over the wrestling. That was a great combination. I think we had talking about the '80s, even Hashim's raised in the 1800s. So we had a great time today. We talked a little bit seriously too. Great time, guys. Trey, you say I should be proud of myself. I am very proud of myself because I came a long goddamn fucking way. Me and Shima actually met through work. We worked together. We almost strangled each other a couple of times, and sometimes we had beers together. That kind of bond I like building through people. I like building, like, I can curse you out, and later, like, let's go get a beer. Cool, let's do it. That's how I was raised. It's different. I have 2 trades, plus I'm working on some other things on the side. We're growing. We're growing together. This is a family. Hashim is my brother. Trey's my brother. Paul is my brother. We might be from different blood, meaning, mothers and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, we come from the same God. That's how I always believed. Doesn't
That
matter
is correct.
what
100.
religions you're from. We're still from the same God. Doesn't matter anything else, except that. So we are starting a new show, me and Paul, on BMU Black Man Unfiltered Network, the Green Line. I don't need to say more. Paul already went over everything I needed to. So guys, remember Wednesdays is my vaping log. And now on Saturdays, every Saturday at 9:30, as long as the weather agrees with me, let me get home on time, so the Ghost of Spar doesn't look like Ghost of Whiteness. It'd be at 9:30. Some of these faces are gonna be on. Some of the other faces are gonna be on. If you want to be a part of it, throw me an email. Except that, guys, stay safe out there and stay fresh.
That's right.